In the Katia Empire, a noble family wielding power under the imperial family was the Duchy of Rosenwester. The blonde girl suddenly acknowledged, "You are right. The head of the Rosenwester family, the emperor's right-hand man, is known for being cold and cruel. Lexian Rosenwester. I am now negotiating a secret contract with him." The blonde girl, sweating, earnestly pleaded, "So please help me." Lexian did not answer, but leisurely picked up his teacup and enjoyed it. Trembling and clutching her hands tightly to her skirt, she earnestly pleaded, "Please, marry me." The Duchy of Rosenwester was notoriously brutal. Starting from an unwanted birth to achieve true success, he laid hands on his own brother, spending almost his entire life on the battlefield, slaughtering countless people, a ruthless assassin. He secretly eliminated all forces opposing the imperial family, an emperor's dog. Lexian suddenly closed the book and asked in a raised voice, "Marry you? In other words, are you asking me to help you divorce your husband?" Serenelle Verdelet. She hastily reminded him of her commitment. "I just promised you, Duke, this agreement will not be a loss for you." Lexian bluntly speculated, asking, "So you mean I gain something? What benefit?" Serenelle bowed her head slightly and explained, "The mine I own, which I let my husband manage, will soon have magic ore extracted there. I bet you know the value of magic ore. As soon as I divorce and regain management rights, I will share the profits with you." Lexian Rosenwester stopped, crossing his arms, and asked, "Is that all?" Serenelle looked up and asked back, "Yes?" He suddenly took a step forward, then haughtily declared, "I'm not interested in those ores." Her husband, Callian Helkar, she was at least aware of him, right? Serenelle, stunned, explained it. Then she involuntarily recalled the day it rained incessantly at that cemetery. While she was kneeling on the ground, her face bowed in sorrow before the tombstone of the person she cherished most, Callian suddenly approached and called out, "Serenelle, let's go. If you keep sitting there, your health will suffer. At least I can bear some of your sorrow." Serenelle gently looked up, her eyes welling up with tears, looked at him and called out, "Callian, when I was 16, a sudden accident took my parents away. In just one night, I became an orphan. It felt as if I had lost everything, if Callian, my childhood friend, hadn't been there with me." Reaching out his hand toward Serenelle, Callian gently spoke, "Come here, Serenelle. From now on, I will protect you. You shouldn't have been left with no other choice." "That's why," Serenelle hesitantly declared, "I want to marry Callian." The blonde uncle asked in surprise, "Callian Helkar? Do you mean that poor Viscount's son?" It turned out he was Marquis Varus Veridet. With a slight bow of her head, Serenelle shyly smiled and explained, "He's not that poor, just a little short on money. Please, uncle, agree." As he picked up his teacup to drink, Varus sneered and expressed, "Ha, I don't know what you're trying to say. No matter how much you love him, a faded Viscount family, with neither financial means nor reputation, can never be worthy of you." Serenelle immediately assured, "As long as I can marry him, I don't need anything else. I don't need a dowry. He alone is more than enough." Hearing her words, he compromised, "If you say so." Not long after, their wedding day arrived. Callian smiled gently and promised, "Serenelle, I will give you a lifetime filled with happiness." And so, I married my first love. Just then, a friend joyfully approached to congratulate her. "Serenelle, congratulations. I can't believe you finally got married. Your husband looks so handsome today." Serenelle, without hesitation, embraced her friend, happily thanking her. "Lorraine, thank you for coming." Lorraine, moved, continued, "Of course, I wish you more happiness than anything else in this world." Above all, Lorraine had been Serenelle's close friend, like an older sister since they were children. Lorraine's sincere blessings filled my heart with joy, at least for that day. I truly believed I was the happiest woman in the world. At that time, my thoughts were so narrow. I believed Callian loved me the way I loved him, but what awaited me was only a tragic end. A servant suddenly shrieked in panic, "Madam, please, wake up! Madam, someone call a doctor, quickly!" Within just 4 years of our wedding, I contracted an unnamed illness, and then I never woke up again. On a day covered in falling snow, right now in Serenelle's room. The maid, with her hair in a bun, anxiously asked, "Madam, are you all right? Madam!" She wearily whispered names, Kina, Callian, Lorraine. Then she thought to herself, "Before it's too late, my last words." Just then, Callian suddenly pushed the door open and called out loudly, "Serenelle!" Madame Kina's voice trembled. "Viscountess." Lorraine covered his mouth with his hand, tears welling up as he called, "Serenelle!" He burst into tears of pain, wailing, "No, Serenelle!" Callian expressed in a low voice, "I want to say my final goodbye to my wife." Hearing this, she replied, "Yes, my Lord Viscount." As she left, one of the two choked up and said, "Ah, Serenelle." Lorraine immediately sat down, took Sarah Neal's hand, and tearfully sobbed. Is she really dead? After that, he quickly let go of her hand. Then he glared and demanded, if so, Kalyan, pinch her nose, see if she's still breathing. Kalyan calmly crossed his arms over his chest and asked, do we really need to do that? The doctor will just come here to issue her death certificate. Lorraine worriedly speculated aloud, maybe she's not dead yet. Kalyan frowned in disgust and reminded her, don't you see all the blood around her? I don't want to touch her at all. That's poison, not some disease. Why are you so scared? Sarah Neal heard this and thought to herself in disbelief, what are you two talking about? Kalyan, Lorraine. She suddenly stood up and snapped an order, then call a doctor right away. I don't want to waste a single moment. Do you know how long I've waited for this moment? He calmly smirked and reassured her, you don't need to worry like that, Lorraine. Finally, we can live freely. You, me, and our Vaughn. Just us. A real family. Sarah Neal couldn't help but be stunned after hearing that, thinking to herself, a child? Us? What do you mean? Could it be that Kalyan and Lorraine? He smiled and suggested, send a letter to the mansion. We must also call the wet nurse and Benny. Benny's 7th birthday. We will celebrate it here. She thought to herself in utter disbelief. 7 years old? So for the past 7 years, you... Kalyan suddenly turned and suggested, Lorraine, stay away from that unlucky little girl. Sarah Neal was now utterly shocked, thinking to herself, no, it can't be. Both of you betrayed me? She suddenly laughed gleefully, exclaiming, foolish Sarah Neal, have you never suspected it? Sarah Neal recalled Lorraine's words, dearest Sarah Neal, I found a tea that helps with fertility. Remember to drink it every day. She suddenly realized that the tea her best friend Lorraine had given her to drink was highly suspicious. Sarah Neal couldn't help but be astonished upon hearing this, thinking to herself, so poison was put in it. But we are friends. Why? Lorraine calmly declared, while you are still here, I will tell you, I have never once considered you a friend. As soon as Sarah Neal saw Larry, she quickly asked, Mom, can I play with her? Her mother gently replied, of course, Sarah Neal, you don't need to ask. Larry continued, ever since we met at the orphanage, she said with a friendly, crinkling smile, let's play together. Then Larry assertively asked, Sarah Neal, you looked down on me, didn't you? Larry feigned generosity and kindness, then said, I've always hated you, but look at you, Sarah Neal. In the end, you have nothing. At this point, Larry suddenly turned away, then asked with a hint of curiosity, but you've always been happy, haven't you? Enjoying things that should have been mine. So if you go to hell, you should thank me. And remember one thing, I'm not the one who destroyed you. It was your own overconfidence, foolishness, and gullibility. In my final moments, I realized one thing. The man I loved most in the world, Kalyan Helkar, had never, ever loved me. So is this the end? For everything? Even though Kalyan had so gently confessed, I love you, Sarah Neal, while Larry assertively declared, Sarah Neal, you are the most important friend in my world. It was all lies, even the smallest words. Both of them had deceived me all this time and stolen my very life. How dare they do that? I can't die like this. I would never die like that. I have to make the two of you pay. I have to make the two of you taste the bitterness I did. So if there really is a God, please, let me return. Back to reality, Sarah Neal declared seriously, I stopped loving Kalyan Helkar a long time ago, and I will never love him again. Duke Rosenwester, may I have your answer? Lexian coldly asked in return. It seems you don't know the most basic condition of this request. The problem with this agreement isn't what you can give, but what the other person wants to receive. Sweating, she asked back blankly. Huh? What do you mean? Izzy placed the book on the table. He calmly suggested, let's do it. Sarah Neal was stunned. He continued, I will help you, and in return, I will take what I want from you. No refusal. I have 2 conditions. First, you must completely cast off that useless man, and second... Just as she heard Lexian say he had 2 conditions. First, she had to completely forget that despicable Kalyan, and second, she had to maintain their marriage permanently. This left Sarah Neal stunned, silently exclaiming, what the hell? Playing with her hair, he asked with a hint of teasing, don't you understand? It means you have to stick to me completely. Sarah Neal was dazed. She recalled, on that snowy night when I died, in the moments before death, I learned the ridiculous truth. An innocent maiden, oblivious to the world around her, never suspecting the ambiguous relationship between her husband and herself, caught in a whirlwind of love, hatred, and ambition, where everything was stolen from her. I was a pathetic hero in this ridiculous story, a weak, foolish, and naive hero. Slowly sinking into the abyss of despair, Sarah Neal earnestly pleaded, I must have my revenge. I must make them pay. Please, give me another chance, if there truly is a God.
No sooner had she spoken, Sarah Neal suddenly opened her eyes and woke up, then quickly sat bolt upright.
After that, she quickly reached out her hand to touch the bedsheet and couldn't help but be astonished, thinking to herself, there's no blood, and my body doesn't hurt. What the hell is going on? Just then, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Immediately after, someone opened the door and stepped in, smilingly asking, Madam, are you awake? Did you sleep well last night? As soon as she saw her, she immediately widened her eyes in surprise and replied, Ah, Kina. She thought to herself, Kina is the one who has taken care of me since I was a child. She gently explained, I was just about to come wake you up. Sarah Neal suddenly rushed forward and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face from emotion, calling out loudly, Kina! She was a little surprised and asked, Madam, is something wrong? She didn't answer, but happily thought to herself, I've truly come back to life. A little while later, in the garden outside the mansion, Sarah Neal was sitting in contemplation, thinking to herself, I had wondered if I could live until next spring. I had fallen into despair so many times. I came back to life 4 years ago, but how did it happen? Just then, Mrs. Kina suddenly came out and asked, Madam, are you here? Please, look at this. It's a gift from Miss Lee Ray. Ray is truly a kind person. I'll go make the tea right away. As soon as Sarah Neal heard Mrs. Kina say that, she frowned tightly in alarm. Then she quickly took out a handkerchief and wrapped the box. Seeing this, Mrs. Kina exclaimed in a slight panic, Oh! The madam said seriously, Kina, I won't drink it. I have something to tell you. Mrs. Kina asked back, bewildered. Sarah Neal calmly requested, Take this to the market. You know the merchant who often deals with my father, right? Give it to him and ask about the ingredients of this tea. Mrs. Kina quickly reached out and took the box, asking with concern, But if we do that, doesn't it mean we're suspecting Miss Lee Ray? She thought in silence for a moment, then replied, As long as you say you're acting on my orders, he will keep it confidential. Seeing her suddenly turn and leave, Kina quickly asked, Madam? She didn't turn her head, announcing, I'm going out for a bit. I'll be back when the sun sets. Don't tell Callie I've left. She added, Oh, right. Remember not to touch those tea leaves with your bare hands. With that, Sarah Neal closed the door and left. Mrs. Kina was a little stunned by this and softly called out, Madam? A moment later, as the carriage rolled forward, Sarah Neal looked out the window, a little lost in thought, and mused to herself, Have I truly returned to the past? Is this a blessing from God or a curse from the devil? I don't know the answer, but one thing I'm sure of, I will never make that mistake again. As soon as Sarah Neal finished her thoughts, she had arrived at her destination. She quickly got out of the car, hastily pulled up her hood, and muttered, I don't know the answer, but... Then she resolutely thought to herself, My presence is certain. I will never make that mistake again. Suddenly, she recalled the smiling face of that damned Collian when he instructed her, Wait here until I return. She recalled the time when they both started the exploitation without any capital. And she continued to think to herself, but after that, neither of them ever returned to this place again. At first, it was because Collian was too busy. Then it was because I was too weak. But the main reason was something else. Just then, a boy suddenly ran up, smiling and calling out, Dad, Dad! This made Sarah Neal's eyes widen immediately in shock. Collian, extending his arms, gently smiled and asked, What is it, Benny? Ah, Benny, that's too dangerous. What if you get hurt? The boy squinted his eyes, smiling happily, and replied, Yes. Sarah Neal stood outside, utterly shocked by what she saw, and thought to herself, There really is a child. Lorraine suddenly appeared, giving a faint smile as she instructed, Benny, remember to listen to your father. You scraped your knee the other day, remember? Seeing this scene, she couldn't help but recall what Callian had once told her in her previous life. Finally, we can live for ourselves, just you and I. With our child, the three of us, will be a real family. Then tears welled up in her eyes from injustice, and she thought to herself, I tried to deny it until I saw it with my own eyes, thinking it might just be a mistake. I was so foolish. Why didn't I realize it? The child must be 2 years old already, meaning before I got married, I had no chance from the start. The black-haired maid suddenly announced, Viscount, it seems the carriage has arrived and is parked by the road. Callian asked in surprise, What? Then he turned toward the coachman. Hey, over there, what brings you here? The coachman explained awkwardly, I apologize. I was summoned here, but it seems I've come to the wrong location. Callian raised an eyebrow and asked gruffly, How could you make a mistake and come to a place like this? Unbelievable. At this, he suddenly crossed his arms over his chest and pondered for a moment. Then he walked back into the house and grumbled, Sarah Neal, seeing this, immediately breathed a sigh of relief, thinking to herself, it was indeed wise to tell Lorraine to keep my visit a secret. Then she suddenly froze there and quickly covered her mouth tightly with her hand, preventing a sob from escaping. Then she sank to the ground and cried painfully for a while. Just then, it suddenly started to rain. She was a little surprised, quickly looking up. A moment later, slowly walking through the rain, Sarah Neal couldn't stop hating, thinking to herself, "Those despicable people," she mumbled to herself, wondering, why didn't I realize it? Or is it because I'm as naive and foolish as Lorraine said? Then she questioned herself again. Does this mean I deserve this? Am I truly the one at fault? Just as Sarah Neal finished speaking, a carriage suddenly approached. It stopped right in front of her, which made her surprised and think to herself, what is this? A carriage should have. Just then, someone suddenly stepped down, came over to shelter her with an umbrella, and asked, I don't think the weather tonight is suitable for a stroll, or is it? Sarah Neal was still dazed.
Seeing Lexion suddenly appear here, Sarah Neal couldn't help but be surprised, thinking, Duke Lexion Rosenwester, why is he here? If he gets involved in this, I'll be in trouble. I need to distract him immediately. Then she spoke, explaining, I just need to go somewhere nearby. Lexion quickly questioned, to where? Sarah Neal, flustered, turned away and said, It's good to see you like this, but I have to go. He seriously informed her, There are many thieves around here. Don't you think it's very dangerous for a lone woman like you to be walking around? Get in, quickly. A moment later, Sarah Neal was sitting in the carriage with Lexion, heading home. Due to the somewhat cramped space inside, their legs kept brushing against each other, making her feel embarrassed as she thought, I know he's big-built, but I didn't think he'd make this carriage feel so cramped. My knees have been trembling ever since the carriage started moving. Lexion suddenly asked curiously, So what is the Marquis doing in a place like this? Hearing his question, Sarah Neal was a little startled, thinking, Marquis.
Sarah Neal thought back and realized he called her by her maiden name, but she was already married. Why was that? After that, she quickly turned her face away, replying in a low voice, I already told you, I needed to go to an important place, and I got lost on my way home. Hearing that, he suddenly sneered and asked again, An important place? As far as I know, the only reason for a woman to be drenched in the rain. She stammered in response, What? What is it? He stated decisively, A man. That's the reason, isn't it? I heard that Kalyan Helkar's villa is nearby, right? This place is quite far from the center. Very convenient for hiding something. Clenching her hands tightly on her dress, Sarah Neal bowed her head and asked, Duke Lexion, did you ask me to get into your carriage just to ask those things? This is my problem, not something you should interfere with, Duke, and I've told you countless times, I came here because I had something to do. Lexion narrowed his eyes slightly, confidently asserting, You're lying. You're not good at lying, Sarah Neal Verdelet. If you truly came here for something, your eyes wouldn't be red and swollen from crying like that. Soon enough, the carriage stopped in front of Sarah Neal's mansion. She quickly stepped down and politely thanked him. Thank you for the ride. This is our first meeting, isn't it? Please forgive my impoliteness. It's late now. I wish you a safe journey home.
Lexion hurriedly asked again, First time? I don't think so. It seems you've forgotten, haven't you? Also, are you happy? Sarah Neal asked back blankly. Huh? What did you just say? He immediately repeated, I'm asking if you're happy. Hearing him ask that, she couldn't help but ask in confusion. Why are you suddenly asking such things? He seriously stated, This is much more important to me than you think, so please answer me truthfully. Sarah Neal didn't answer immediately, but secretly questioned herself in her heart. Happy? I'd only be happy if I went crazy. I'm so annoyed I can't sleep. Thinking about Kalyan and Lorraine's faces already annoyed me greatly, and when I think about that child. Seeing Sarah Neal slightly lower her head, clenching her fists in anger, Lexion quickly exclaimed, I see, I understand. We'll meet again soon, even if you say you hate me. The clock now showed 10:36 p.m. Seeing that it was already late and Sarah Neal still hadn't returned, Mrs. Keena was extremely worried. Just then, she suddenly opened the door and walked in. Mrs. Keena immediately rushed over to ask, Madam, you're finally back. You had me worried sick.
She apologized softly. I'm sorry, Keena. Keena exclaimed in alarm, Oh my, you're all wet. What happened? She replied softly, I'll tell you later. For now, I want to sleep. Keena hastily offered, I'll prepare clothes and dinner for you right away. As she walked, Sarah Neal replied indifferently, Whatever. Please tell Kalyan that the current situation is very bad. Keena replied with a hint of surprise, Yes, Miss Lorraine is here. She suddenly stopped and asked again in a low voice, What did you say? Keena frowned and explained, The Viscount said she wanted to dine together, so, gripping the stair railing tightly, Sarah Neal thought indignantly, So both of them are here, in this house. Then she scoffed at herself. How foolish of me.
Mrs. Keena quickly added, I already told them that you went to the Marquise's house. It seems they asked about the current situation, so I couldn't think of any other option. As she ran a hand through her hair, Sarah Neal softly thanked her. Thank you, ma'am. I was going to my uncle's place anyway. Hearing this, she quickly asked, So would you like me to tell them that you are resting? She immediately replied, "No, go prepare a new dress." The next morning, Mrs. Kina suddenly announced, "Miss, what you requested this morning has been placed in the dressing table drawer." Sarah Neal didn't reply, but thought to herself, "How can I get my revenge?" She gently got her head, looking down at the letter on the table. Then she picked it up and murmured to herself, "Should I expose them?" Then she considered, if it comes out that a commoner like Lorraine is involved with a noble, she certainly won't be able to escape punishment. After thinking this, Sarah Neal murmured, "Anyway, I should talk about this with my uncle. We need to discuss the next steps."
Suddenly hearing laughter and chatter outside the door sent shivers down her spine. She quickly hid the letter in the drawer. Upon seeing her, Lorraine asked with a hint of surprise, "Ah, Sarah Neal, I heard you went to the Duke's mansion, but seeing you return so late made me worried." She replied with a faint smile, "I'm sorry for making you worry. You must be very hungry, right? Let's eat." A moment later, in the mansion's dining room, Lorraine suddenly asked, "Oh, Sarah Neal, did you receive the tea I sent you?" Hearing her question, Sarah Neal involuntarily paused for a moment. Unaware, she squinted her eyes in a smile and said, "I wrote about it in the letter. I'm sure it will help you, so remember to drink it every day. Hee hee." Sarah Neal's eyes widened in surprise as she replied, Thank you. You must be very hungry. Hurry up and eat." Lorraine didn't reply, but subtly raised an eyebrow, looking at her with confusion. She suddenly asked, "By the way, Kellyan." He immediately replied, "How's the business deal going? Uncle is worried." He broke out in a sweat and asked again, "Uncle?" She calmly explained, "Yes, because you're always busy, he didn't get a chance to speak directly." While continuing to eat, Kellyan asked, "If it's to make our relationship stronger, do you agree with Uncle?" Sarah Neal immediately retorted, "You don't need to do that. I've already spoken on your behalf. Now tell me what's on your mind." Hearing Matt, Kellyan quickly asked, "Sarah Neal, are you serious?" She confirmed in a serious tone, "Of course, I'm very serious. I need to update the situation regarding the mine, don't I? But my family's mine. It's mine, right?"
After my parents unexpectedly passed away in an accident, the only thing I inherited was a mine. Although the mining industry is gradually gaining attention, Kellyan has been involved in this profession his entire life. Society still places great importance on having a steady income. However, the true value of the mining industry lies in another aspect, magic ore. Depending on its rarity, the price of magic ore will increase even more. Soon, magic ore will be extracted from my mine. In other words, this industry will bring in enormous profits. But I will not allow Kellyan to profit from it. From now on, I will set things right. I will make Kellyan abandon mining and destroy everything he has, including Kellyan's treasure and Larie.
Kellyan frowned with concern and asked, "But Sarah Neal, you don't know anything about business, do you? Even if I tell you, I don't know if you'll understand." Just then, Larie unexpectedly exclaimed, "Well, isn't that good? If Sarah Neal manages her own mine, the Viscount can focus more on his business, and Sarah Neal wants this too, doesn't she?" For her to research and inform herself about the Viscount's business, Sarah Neal must truly love the Viscount. "The Viscount is truly lucky to have a wife like Sarah Neal," Kellyan remarked, blushing and smiling shyly. "I think so too. I truly am a lucky man." Hearing him say that, Sarah Neal couldn't help but think with disgust. The truth is, he's trying to hide his true nature by smiling like that. It makes me sick. After that, she stood up and coldly demanded, "Then please report the business progress starting tomorrow." As Larry said, you don't need to worry about anything at all. With that, Sarah Neal quickly walked out and closed the dining room door. Afterwards, she talked to herself with a hint of disbelief. Now that I know the truth, I can face them calmly. Then she quickly made her way back to her room. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she continued to think, "But this is just the beginning. I cannot fall before the battle even starts." After finishing her thoughts, she quickly pulled out a drawer and read the contents written inside. "I believe this is something I should tell you directly. However, as I am in a hurry, I will convey it through this letter. Based on the ingredients of the tea packet you sent me last time, it's a deadly poison concocted by mixing various toxins. All of them are odorless and tasteless, making them very difficult to detect if they enter the body. Even if detected, creating an antidote would be extremely challenging. Just a small amount added each time, slowly, and no one would ever notice. This is a type of poison very suitable for mixing with tea." Reading this part, Sarah Neal quickly exclaimed, "I knew it!" After reading, Sarah Neal suddenly recalled Lorraine's suggestion. "Drink it every day, okay?" She then couldn't help but laugh mockingly and exclaimed, "So that's why she said that." She then deduced, thinking to herself, if the tea is consumed regularly, the poison will begin to destroy the lungs, and gradually all the internal organs will rot. I don't need to read any further to understand. I've already experienced it in my previous life. Lorraine's venomous words from her previous life suddenly echoed. If given enough time, I would have poisoned your food too, not just your tea. At the end of the letter, Tiangjia thoughtfully advised, I don't know what's happening to you, madam, but if you are in danger or have been poisoned, I can offer you some advice. After reading these words, she suddenly looked up, stared straight into the mirror, and said, Tiangjia was right. I am still in danger.
This time, I might not drink because I know its harmful effects, but I don't know what method they'll use to poison me next time. At this thought, Sarah Neal secretly resolved, I don't want to live a life where I have to suffer the same fate as in my previous life. At the same time, in a certain corridor, Callian suddenly spoke up to remind, I told you not to do this here. What if Sarah Neal sees? Lorray calmly replied, women fall asleep easily. She's probably sound asleep in bed by now. Hearing this, he sneered. Unbelievable. A stupid woman who knows nothing about business wants to hear a business report. Huh, she's truly foolish.
She sneered and asked, but it's still better than reporting through Varys. Just think of a way to exploit Sarah Neal. Besides, I've already arranged for Sarah Neal to die a slow death. Hearing this, he quickly speculated. Don't tell me you poisoned her. Lorray, we agreed to discuss this first. This, after all, is a bit. Pushing him away, she rolled her eyes and angrily yelled, Callian, if you keep being so cowardly, when will things ever change? Of course I won't eliminate her immediately. I'll fulfill the 3-year condition you mentioned. Once Sarah Neal dies, you can also cut ties with Varys, and then we'll become a family. You can't let Benny be locked up in that convilla forever, right? Besides, I don't like this place. Callian, sweating, gave a strained laugh and asked, What do you mean? Lorray pouted and replied, This mansion.
From the architecture to the layout, everything was terrible, he explained awkwardly. She immediately interjected. I know, it's Sarah Neal's taste, right? As soon as I become your wife, I'll replace everything, from the furniture to the architectural design. And Callian, you must remember our promise. He asked, bewildered. What promise? Lorray reminded him in a loud voice, the promise that you won't spend the night with Sarah Neal. Callian stammered in confirmation. Of course I remember. She quickly added, I'll only accept the wedding night. From now on, Benny will be your only child. He confidently declared, Of course, I have no interest in that woman either. She delightedly asked back, A boring woman like a statue? What's the point of embracing someone like that? Oh, is that so? The next morning, Mrs. Kino walked along, smiling and exclaiming, Oh, I wonder how long it's been. Sarah Neal gently ran a hand through her hair and said, It's wonderful to live in the city again. Pointing forward, she added, Over there, I've already contacted them. Hearing that, she turned and suggested, You wait here, I'll be out quickly. Phew, just as she was about to open the door and step in, someone greeted her. It's a beautiful morning, Miss Sarah Neal. Seeing Lexi in there too, she was a little surprised and thought to herself, Why is he here? Then she quietly greeted him back. Good morning, Duke Lexi and Rosenwester. It's an honor to meet you.
Meeting you in a place like this, he interjected curiously. Are you here to buy dining utensils? You don't seem to welcome me much, do you? In any case, there's no reason to forbid you from coming here yourself. Or do you have another reason to be here? For example, you're here to request something no one should know, or you need to keep them silent yourself, or perhaps both. Sarah Neal, Yes, first of all, take this. The shop owner quickly took it and opened it, then asked with a hint of surprise, Madam, this.
Sarah Neal seriously continued, A large sum of money. Its weight is directly proportional to the importance of you keeping your mouth shut. Let me tell you, nothing is threatening you, so don't worry. The shop owner broke out in a sweat, cautiously asking, So, what is the request? She immediately stated her request. I want you to make me a set of silver eating utensils and disguise it as carefully as possible so that no one recognizes that it's made of silver. With your skills, this shouldn't be difficult, right? Of course, I will also pay for the materials and the labor. Once again, I assure you that you will not be in danger. Just then, someone suddenly entered and acknowledged, That's right, causing Sarah Neal to jump in surprise and think to herself, This voice. With his arms crossed over his chest, Lexion continued with a faint smile. What danger could making a set of silver eating utensils cause? Unless you're using it to kill someone. She broke out in a sweat, turning her head in shock to look at him and thinking to herself, Duke Lexion Rosenwester.
The shop owner flusteredly reminded, Other guests are not allowed in. This. As he stepped forward, Lexion calmly replied, There are people you can forbid, but there are also people you cannot. The Rosenwester family has sponsored many shops this year. Well, an ordinary person like you probably wouldn't know, would you? Hearing this, Sarah Neal frowned in suspicion, thinking to herself, Sponsorship? What does he mean? This is just a move by the nobles, isn't it? In the case that the Duke always calculated every move since becoming a noble, to manipulate their actions quickly and reasonably, he scattered money to shops like this. As he took out a few plates, the shop owner spoke up, suggesting, Madam, my apologies. First, the silver plates. Let me show you a few types. Lexion suddenly turned to another direction and suggested, Just take the simplest ones. Some things aren't available immediately just because you want them, and many things cannot be produced with high quality in a short time. She angrily questioned loudly, Why? Why do you keep interfering in my affairs? As he picked up a silver spoon, he calmly reminded her,
If only you use a different set of eating utensils, aren't you afraid of being suspected? Especially by those who have been in the mansion with you for a long time. In this case, wouldn't it be better to replace everything completely? But I'm a little curious. Who in this world would try to poison you? To replace all the eating utensils to avoid suspicion? Is it possible that someone else is eating with you? If so, I think there's only one person, Callie-Anne Helcar. Sarah Neal did not reply, but pressed her lips together, thinking for a moment before speaking. Sir, you must have spent too much time on the battlefield. Now that we have won, please don't treat every place like a battlefield anymore. You are not active in the business world, but I have heard a story that when you talk to others, the topic always revolves around you, Duke.
But why is that? By now, shouldn't you be preparing to go to the battlefield? At this, Sarah Neal unexpectedly took a step forward, then questioned in a loud voice, "Why have you shifted your interest to me?" Lexion suddenly sneered and asked back, "Who told you this? Who told you I would return to the battlefield?" She broke into a sweat and awkwardly explained, "This is something everyone in the Empire knows, including me, of course. Why would you—" Before she could finish, he unexpectedly plucked a strand of her hair, then smiled faintly and said, "From now on, you'll be creating your own rumors." Her husband, Lexion Rosenwester, had lost all interest in killing, and at this moment, I would not go to the battlefield. No, perhaps I would never return to the battlefield again. That evening, at Sarah Neal's mansion. As soon as she entered the room, she sat down on a chair and let out a sigh of relief. Then she thought to herself, Callie-Anne was leaving home more often than before. He claimed to be busy with mining. He's a blatant liar. He's probably at that Khan villa by now. If there's a way to resolve this situation, he should at least report on the mining progress. But whatever, I don't want to see his face anyway, so let it be. This time, I won't touch anything. I'll just leave them be. To do that, I first need to learn about the stone mining industry. But there's something very strange. A portion of the information about the investment and investors is almost completely hidden. Even the final list I found was full of aliases. With such a large investment capital, why keep it a secret until now? Why? I have to find out the truth at any cost, but I clearly heard I will not go to the battlefield anytime soon. So perhaps the rumor was true, that the Emperor wanted to use the Duke as a shield to eliminate all rebellious nobles. For example, if the purpose of private individuals investing in the mine was to assemble a secret army.
Whether right or wrong, that reason was enough for the Emperor to launch a purge against treason. So what should I do now? The next morning, as soon as she opened the door and stepped in, Kina smiled brightly and said, "Good morning, my lady." Sarah Neal replied with a smile in her eyes, "Good morning, Kina. You always seem to be full of energy, don't you?" She happily confirmed, "Of course. Oh, that reminds me, I found this while cleaning." Kina handed Sarah Neal a box and said, "This is the first one." She bewilderedly took the box and asked, "What is this?" She excitedly suggested, "I think you should look at it. My lady, do you feel nostalgic?" As she opened the letter and read it, Sarah Neal smiled faintly and replied, "Yes, when I was little, my father used to write me these letters on my birthday." With that, she eagerly read the rest. Suddenly remembering something, she softly exclaimed, "Ah!" Then she turned her head to look at the remaining letters and thought to herself, "This one is Lorraine's. Well, when we were little, she and I used to exchange letters. Dearest Sarah Neal, sometimes, no, often, I envy you. I imagine what it would be like if I weren't an orphan but a noble. Even so, would you treat me as kindly as you do now? Do you truly trust me? Since we are here, I will say this. I have never considered you a friend."
"I've changed, Lorraine. Neither you nor I ever thought we'd be on the same side. You used to be my only friend, which is why I wanted to do everything for you, pick flowers for you. Yet you so easily took hold of the sword and kept it for yourself, only to then drown yourself in your own inferiority complex. As for Callie-Anne, you created such a relationship, only using me as a stepping stone for your path to glory." Just then, Mrs. Kina suddenly noticed something and quickly called out, "Madam, look, this is the dress you wore at your debut." Sarah Neal asked, bewildered, "A debut?" Damn it, I forgot how my heart raced when I wore it. As she handed Sarah Neal the earring, she cheerfully reminded her, "And here are the accessories you wore with it." Sarah Neal quickly took it and asked with a hint of confusion, "The one I wore at the debut, but why is there only one?" Hearing Sarah Neal's question, Kina burst out laughing. "Haha, don't you remember? You lost one at that time, so you were very sad." After a moment of reflection, Sarah Neal exclaimed, "Ah, I remember now. That's because I lost it, right?" She smiled and reminded her again, "And you returned with your hair and clothes in disarray. Perhaps that was the debut where you had to dance." A group of them bullied him. The noble young master simultaneously kicked the young boy while loudly cursing, "You little rat, don't you know your place? I told you, if you're a rat, just shut your mouth."
At this point, he suddenly paused for a moment, then swung his leg and kicked the young boy hard, and said with a malicious laugh, "This is punishment for being an eyesore to me." Seeing this, Sarah Neal immediately ran over and pushed him away and shouted loudly,
"What are you all doing?" Sarah Neal looked straight into his eyes without a hint of fear. "A whole group of you ganging up on one person." The young man, who seemed to be the leader of the group, clicked his tongue when he heard that. He ran a hand through his hair, a haughty smile on his face, and asked, "What's going on here? Why doesn't the young lady know her place and move aside?" Faced with his extremely insolent attitude, Sarah Neal frowned, secretly speculating, "These people dare to treat me, the daughter of a marquis, like this. They must be the sons of some prestigious noble families." Then she warned loudly, "If you don't stop, I will call for help. I don't know how your families will deal with you."
But you all know that a member of the royal family will also be attending today's debut, right? He chuckled fearlessly, saying, "Ha, how disrespectful. Psst, let's go." Kina laughed excitedly and asked, "And then what?" Sarah Neal smiled teasingly and replied, "Well, what then? They left and—" "Are you all right? You're not hurt, are you?" "It looks like you're not hurt anywhere, so shall we return to the main hall together?" With that, Sarah Neal turned around and cheerfully walked forward. A moment later in the main hall of the mansion. Turning her face away, Sarah Neal chuckled shyly to herself, thinking, "What should I do? This is so embarrassing." Thinking this, she secretly glanced at him, then sighed to herself, "He looks so sad." "All right, if that's the case," she suddenly stood up and proposed, "If you don't mind, would you dance with me?" Sarah Neal's sudden invitation made the young man widen his eyes in surprise as he looked at her. After that, we danced together. Both of us were very awkward and embarrassed, but it was also a lot of fun. Our clumsy dance was probably a bit different from everyone else's, but I think I was happy enough not to notice the gazes of those around us. Well, that's the whole story. The party ended not long after we met, so that's all there was to it. After listening, Kina couldn't help but blush and ask with amusement, "Oh my, do you know anything about that young man?" Sarah Neal immediately replied, "Of course, and where he came from?" Then she quickly recalled what he had told her. "I don't have anything like that." She then continued, "That's what he said before he left, so there was nothing else I could do." After hearing this, Kina said with great regret, "What a pity, even though he was your companion throughout the debut."
She quickly acknowledged, "That's right. Well, if she died and then came back to life, those memories wouldn't matter much. I don't have the energy to look back at the past." Sweating, she asked again in a panic, "Hey, dead, who's dead?" She smiled and denied, "No, not at all." Then she thought with a hint of curiosity, "I wonder how that boy is doing now. I hope he's all right." At the same time, Lexion was leaning against a table, reading the contents of the letter in his hand. He silently murmured the name Varys Verdelet to himself, then mumbled, "This is the list of those to be punished."
Though he secretly thought it, the emperor had tried for a very long time to let himself be entangled in the vortex of rebellious nobles, but I never wanted to be involved in such matters. To escape the troubles caused by the emperor, I repeatedly ventured onto the battlefield. I had no reason to cling to life or fear death, much less for the emperor. But truly, I was happy. Half a year ago, at a dull party, I met her. As soon as they saw Sarah Neal, the noble ladies immediately praised, "Oh, Lady Hilkar, long time no see. I suppose not since your wedding day. You seem to be enjoying married life quite a lot, don't you? Ha ha." She shyly smiled and denied, "Oh, not at all." As soon as he placed his wineglass on the table, Lexion called out in a low voice, "Miss Sarah Neal Verdelet, may I have a moment of your time?" Hearing this, Sarah Neal bowed respectfully and greeted, "It is an honor to meet you, Duke Rosenwester. Is there something you wish to speak to me about?" He suddenly asked seriously, "Sarah Neal Verdelet, are you happy?" She asked back in surprise, "Pardon?" He quickly repeated, "As I said, are you happy?" Hearing his question, her cheeks suddenly flushed and the corners of her lips unconsciously curved upwards. Then she smiled with her eyes and replied, "Yes, I am very happy." When I heard her answer, I lost my reason to live. But then, on that heavy rainy day, the moment I saw her walking weakly, the situation changed. And now I have chosen to stay in the Empire, no longer following the Emperor's directives. Until the message is found, I will not go to the battlefield again. I will create a list like this.
I wasn't interested in any battles before, but this time is an exception. Veridile, simply because his name is written on this list. Clutching a collar, the group's leader yelled, "One person is more than enough. Do you even know where you stand? You little rat. That was me. My mother was a maid in a noble family. I grew up accustomed to being treated like a parasite by the time I was too old to have a debutante ball. Mother's dying wish was, "Lexion, Bond carries the blood of a duke, so please, hold a debutante ball." Although it was my ailing mother's dying wish, my brother bullied me. They didn't like the idea, saying, "Stop it, drag the council to bully one person. If you keep going, I'll call someone over there."
When I close my eyes, the memory of that day is still vivid, even her gently trembling voice, in the small memory she had long forgotten. Please, get up. I held Sereneil's earring tenderly in my hand.
Lexion mumbled, I've never forgotten a single minute of that moment. I wanted to return it before the party ended. No, more than not being able to return it. Sereneil held out her hand, smiling faintly as she introduced herself. My name is Sereneil Verdile. If I went back to the time I was with you, I feel like everything would end there, and I don't want that to happen.
Under the warm morning sun, the grand mansion peeked out from behind layers of lush greenery. A clear voice rang out, Madam, you have a visitor. Sereneil wore a beautiful pair of shoes, tapping softly on the polished marble floor. Dressed simply today, she exuded an even more noble aura. Sereneil slowly descended the stairs. Powell bowed slightly to greet her. Madam, I hope you are well. She calmly replied, You've arrived earlier than promised, Powell. I hope I haven't pressured you too much. He shrugged nonchalantly, saying, Of course, I don't push myself. Then Powell directed his gaze towards the staff carrying items inside. So don't worry, Lexion has given us an extra bonus. Sereneil was startled to hear this, unable to believe it. Seeing the bewildered look on her face, he simply explained to Sereneil, I don't know if you're aware, but Lexion has a significant influence over most of the market, which is why he always rewards generously. Powell glanced around to see if anyone else was present. When he saw no one, he reached into his inner jacket pocket to retrieve something. She was a little suspicious. Is something wrong? Powell cautiously replied, No, there's something I want to tell you. Then he took out a carefully tied scroll. After reading it, please remember to burn it. She curiously took the scroll. What is it? Powell tried to remain calm, saying, This is something Lexion entrusted to me. Knowing this was from him, Sereneil became even more curious. From the Duke? He quietly relayed Lexion's words. He said that when you read it, you will understand the answer. Hearing this, she was utterly bewildered. The answer? Powell continued to reveal a few more things. You will know what to do next, and how to make a choice. He had said that much. Sereneil frowned awkwardly, and found it inconvenient to ask further. And he said there is only one answer.
Powell, seeing that the work was done, bowed and excused himself, saying, Then I'll take my leave now. She, however, remained standing there, dazed, her hand clutching the scroll tightly. It wasn't until night fell, with only the faint moonlight seeping through the window. Sereneil sat on the bed, still staring at the scroll in her hand. She unrolled the paper, and each line of neat writing became clear. Sereneil examined the contents and realized this was a list of nobles. The names on this list were all individuals with both wealth and power. Nobles were always known for their wealth, and all of them were close to her uncle. She let the light from the window illuminate each character, feeling that something was very strange. This was not just an ordinary list. Recalling Lexion's arrogant demeanor, Sereneil still couldn't understand. Duke Lexion must have known what he was aiming for, but how did he know that? At this point, she slowly began to grasp something. Her prediction was probably correct. He always wore heavy armor and wielded his sword in battle. Besides participating in battles, he also received orders from the Emperor to eliminate nobles who posed a threat to the throne. Coupled with Powell's veiled words today, in his statement that there was only one answer, everything gradually became clear. Sereneil struggled to hold the paper tightly, causing it to crumple. If she wanted to escape danger, she should accept his help, shouldn't she? She looked at the tightly closed window. But why did Sir Lexion not matter to her now? And she was also sure that she didn't matter to him. Sereneil pondered silently. Then why did he go so far from me? Suddenly, distant footsteps reached her, and she was startled into attention. Sereneil pulled up the blanket and quickly hid the paper under the bed.
Next, she looked up to observe where the sound came from. Suddenly, the door to Sereneil's room burst open. Callian, completely drunk, his face flushed red, stumbled as he pushed the door open and entered. Seeing him, she immediately stood up, backing away. He approached Sereneil with a mocking expression. Sereneil, you waited up so late for me? She frowned, wanting only to get away from him. Are you drunk? Sereneil decisively left Callian there and walked away. You should go to bed early. You have an exam tomorrow, don't you? He suddenly grabbed her wrist. Callian delightedly pulled Sereneil towards him. What's wrong, Sereneil? Don't be so cold. Then he threw her onto the bed. Callian pinned Sereneil down, admiring her angry yet helpless expression. Are you sulking because I haven't been paying much attention to you? Facing Sereneil, he continued to ramble on. Well, that's difficult. Work is busy. There's a lot to do. Then Callian excitedly loosened his tie. But from now on, I'll pay more attention to you, so cheer up. She was held tightly by him, constantly struggling to break free. Stop it. But Callian had no intention of letting her escape. Foolish Sereneil. He had also unbuttoned the top few buttons of his shirt. I didn't expect you to go this far. I feel sorry for you. Hearing that, Sereneil suddenly froze, her eyes wide with shock. What?
What does he mean? Betrayed by her own husband and best friend, people she cherished as treasures.
Kalyan still held her tightly on the bed, confidently declaring, "Don't worry, from now on I will take care of you for the rest of your life." Serenial regained her composure, asking sternly, "Who?" This made him bewildered. She decisively pushed Kalyan's hand away, her tone full of annoyance. "Who will care for me?" At this moment, he also understood the meaning behind Serenial's words. "Because now you only have two people by your side, Serenial, me and Larie." Under her astonished gaze, Kalyan immediately affirmed, "That's right. We will take care of you. You don't need to worry about anything." Serenial thought of her tragic future. He still slowly stroked her golden hair, asking, "Understand?" Then Kalyan squeezed Serenial's face tightly, leaning close to her ear and whispering, "You don't need to do anything. Just stay put." She gritted her teeth and questioned, "What did you say?" He caressed her breasts, his face clearly showing joy. "Because you don't need to do anything." Serenial sensed the danger, frowning angrily, her eyes unable to hide the bone-deep hatred.
Serenial immediately sat up, pushing Kalyan away. She got out of bed at once, wiping clean the spot he had just touched. However, Kalyan still tried to grab her shoulder, wanting to hold her back. Serenial snapped irritably, "Let go." He was helpless, so he released his hand and lowered it. Kalyan collapsed onto the bed, exhausted. "Damn it, I forgot," he mumbled. Serenial had by then put her outer coat back on. "What are you saying?" she asked. Kalyan put a hand to his forehead, continuously mumbling, "I can't keep a secret from you even though I promised." Serenial already noticed the key that had fallen from his pants pocket. "Here's the key," she said. Kalyan kept rambling on. Annoyed, she cast a disgusted look at him. Serenial recalled Larie and Kalyan being affectionate with each other. "You remember our promise, right?" she heard Kalyan say in her memory. The two of them were intertwined, simultaneously plotting about her, the promise not to spend the night with Serenial. From now on your child is only Benny. Kalyan, in his drunken state, still wanted to try it once, but sometimes I want to try something new, don't I? A voice replied, "Of course, a girl who stays in the mansion all day is very boring. What's the point of keeping someone like this?" The more she listened, the angrier she became.
Her hands clenched in anger, trembling as she listened to him babble in his drunken stupor. At this moment she was stunned. Inside she grew even more curious. What this man was ultimately hiding, something that neither Larie nor she had any knowledge of. Thinking of the key from earlier, she seemed to have understood something. She clutched the key tightly, remembering that room, then exclaimed, "No way," and immediately ran out of the room. Kina was half asleep, heard footsteps and opened her door to see. "Who would be walking around at this hour, my lady?" Seeing her rush off like the wind, she became extremely worried. "My lady, what's wrong?" Kina followed her to her room, and witnessing what she was doing, she was terrified. "My lady, what are you doing here? Oh my!" Seeing her whole body trembling incessantly, Kina slowly approached her. "My lady, what's wrong?" She didn't know why she was crying, so she leaned in to ask, "My lady, what's wrong?" Kina saw the bottle of medicine she was holding. "My lady, is this birth control? Why is this here?" Kina was deeply shocked, unable to believe it. In her deep blue eyes, this bottle of medicine made her realize something. He had been giving her this all along. She would never forgive him. She clutched the bottle tightly, silently making a resolution.
In this world, there are many things that humans don't know, many things that aren't meant to be told to anyone, and many things that will never be known. They come in many forms. Some things, like Larie, buy poison to kill people, while others seek things like stimulants or hallucinogens to satisfy their dirty desires. Among them are even drugs to prevent conception after intercourse, but there are also many contradictions. Serenial wearily bowed her head, recalling Kalyan's words. "Do you remember our promise? You promised not to spend the night with Serenial." She was so angry she burst into tears, streams of them continuously rolling down her face. Even though they had promised, Kalyan sometimes still came to her room. Tonight, he was completely drunk. Recalling the time Kalyan offered her a sparkling glass of wine, "Come here, Serenial, let's drink." Serenial skillfully refused then. "Kalyan, you know I don't like drinking alcohol." Kalyan kept coaxing her. "It's just to liven up the atmosphere. Come on, drink it." She stared at the glass of wine. After a moment of hesitation, Serenial reluctantly raised the glass and drank the wine. Kalyan was extremely pleased. Serenial thought to herself, "It's always like this. He forces me to drink this medicine." The scene shifted to an afternoon tea party. Larie picked up her teacup and asked indifferently, "Serenial, is something bothering you?" Not long after they got married, Larie had asked Serenial that. "You look so gloomy." At that time, Serenial was still unaware of Larie's malice and confided in her like a friend. "No, it's nothing serious, but actually, Kalyan and I only slept together for one night. It was our wedding night." Hearing this, Larie immediately stopped drinking her tea. She then happily smiled and spoke as usual. "Oh, that's fine. There's nothing to worry about.
It's probably because you're too pure, Sereniel. Lorray calmly chatted intimately with Sereniel. But I know why you're worried. You want to have a child too, don't you, Sereniel? She smirked slyly, pleased with herself. You should try to seduce him. Men usually react to a woman's charm, and then anything can happen. I don't know if you can do it.
Only now did she understand the hidden meaning in those words. So she had always mocked me. But Lorray, did she know? While drunk, Callian had revealed his true feelings, saying that sometimes he also wanted to try new flavors, and she was deceived just like me. Seeing Sereniel clutching the medicine bottle, tears falling onto her smooth white hand, Kina stammered in confusion. Madam, surely, you're not using it, are you? Why is this in the Viscount's study? She covered her mouth, still unable to believe any of it. But Sereniel confirmed herself. I have used it, many times. She immediately turned and asked Kina, Kina, do you know why Callian made me drink it? Because there would be a problem if I had a child, because he already has a child with Lorray. Thinking of him and Lorray playing happily with their child, she grew even angrier. Hearing this, Kina's eyes widened in shock. What did you say? Kina stammered. Sereniel replied, You probably don't believe it, neither do I, but it's the truth. At this moment, her mood had completely collapsed. Thinking of when Callian squeezed her chin, whispering disgusting words, You should sit still and do nothing, because there's nothing you can do. Sereniel gnashed her teeth in fury. He had stolen her things and then cheated on her with Lorray all this time. Callian, I am no longer the dog that satisfies you. Play with me when you like, discard me when you're bored. That's what I've had to endure.
I'm still useless to you in the end. She was unwilling, crying continuously, tearing at her hair. I want to destroy you, destroy both of them, and her and myself. Before Kina's astonished gaze, she suddenly stood up. Sereniel immediately rushed out of the room. Madam, where are you going? Madam! A voice rang out, but she glared angrily, dashing away like an arrow. On the rocky coastal road, the undulating waves continuously crashed against the large rocks. Sereniel ran straight to this place, her cloak fluttering in the wind. She looked up at the star-filled sky, letting the wind mess up her hair. Sereniel, lost in thought, remembered her parents. Father, mother. Looking down at the waves pushed ashore by the wind, with foam constantly splashing up, she vaguely wondered, what should I do?
Sereniel was swept by a cold wind, her mind becoming clear, but her eyes were as deep as bottomless water. She recalled the carriage carrying her parents to their tragic death at the place that took them, in the dark night and the great waves of the sea. She had never found their sunken bodies in the ocean since that accident. If she went down there, would she meet them? After the accident, only a few fragments of the carriage floated on the water. She cried out in agony in her heart. Vaughn is sorry. Vaughn promised you both that Vaughn would live happily. Vaughn promised that since the day you both left. Sereniel resentfully covered her mouth, trying to suppress her emotions deep inside. Vaughn said Vaughn would live well without you both, so you wouldn't have to worry, so you could rest in peace in heaven. That's what Vaughn promised. She could only stand there, enduring the biting cold wind of this place. But sadness surged, and Sereniel couldn't hold on, collapsing to her knees. What would you both say if you saw Vaughn like this?
She leaned forward, reaching out towards the still water. My foolishness, trusting Callian and Lorray unconditionally. Even though I have died once, the only thing I knew was the truth. I was still played like a toy without knowing it. Please forgive me. Sereniel still couldn't hold back her flowing tears, because I was too foolish. I'm sorry. I can't be happy. I'm sorry. Suddenly someone approached, seeing her whole body tremble slightly. How strange. He handed Sereniel a handkerchief, asking, Why do we always meet like this? Lexiel, maintaining his cold demeanor, said, Use it. At least I haven't poisoned the handkerchief. She carefully took the handkerchief from him. Under the night sky, the two sat together, gazing at the scene before them. To me, this scene was also very strange. Then Sereniel asked what she had always wondered. Why do you always appear at times like these? He casually chuckled. It sounds like you're blaming me. Then Lexion turned and posed the question back to her. Why didn't you tell me? That's not it, Sereniel calmly replied. My life turned out this way only because of me. She always took all the blame upon herself. Your Grace is not at fault at all. Of course, it's also strange that we meet like this.
Anyway, there are many things I don't want to be discovered everywhere, all the time. I don't think it's always like that, Sereniel mumbled softly. At this moment, he spoke up, changing the subject. When we met at Powell's shop, you still looked fine, but today is different. It seems like something has shocked you greatly. She was surprised that Lexion could recognize her mood. He also bluntly pointed out the deep pain in Sereniel's heart. Is that why you're here?
No way back, no escape from the pain, so you came here? However, she immediately asked why Lexion was there. Then why are you here, and so late at night? He maintained a nonchalant attitude, smiling gently. You're always like this, aren't you? Recalling Sarah Neal's tear-stained, distressed appearance, he added, You never answer my questions, always asking back, as if your heart has decided that you cannot trust anyone. Lexion noticed the ring on her ring finger, or perhaps she had experienced something that made her this way. This place holds great meaning for me, so I often come here, but usually there's no one around. His voice blended with the continuous sound of ocean waves crashing against the shore. Hearing this, Sarah Neal was a little doubtful. This place holds meaning for you? Lexion touched the lush green grass. Do you really think your parents died just because of an accident? What you've seen might not be the whole story. He coldly reminded her of this.
Sarah Neal was stunned by the words Lexion uttered. There was no reason why an accident couldn't be orchestrated. But what if someone was pulling the strings behind everything? What if it was all a prearranged plan, a tragic accident that took her parents' lives? For now, the bright moon still hung perfectly round overhead, and the wind gently swayed the tree branches. He let her wring her handkerchief, continuing to expose the harsh truth. With matters like these, even if she knew it wasn't her fault, she could only blame herself. Lexion calmly recounted what he knew. He said that if she had no one to confide in and rely on, she would only blame herself even more. He continued to confide, advising her that in such moments, she should only focus on what she could do. Once she sank into despair, it would be very difficult to escape, and the longer she let it linger, the heavier the burden of self-reproach would become. Seeing Sarah Neal's face, unable to hide her surprise, Lexion thought to himself, I never thought I'd say such words, but she looks quite surprised, doesn't she? He calmly asked about his image in Sarah Neal's eyes. Am I, in your eyes, like a butcher? Without waiting for her reply, he added, Well, in any case, you should remember one thing.
Whether you trust me or not is your choice, but I am the only one who can eliminate all the threats around you. With those words, Lexion immediately stood up. At this moment, he was like a god, helping her choose her own future destiny. I am the only one by your side. Lexion was confident in his abilities, allowing Sarah Neal to comfortably ponder her feelings, waiting until she came to ask for help. The moonlight that night was truly bright, brighter than ever before. She slowly spoke. Duke. Sarah Neal remained seated with her knees drawn up, slowly asking what she had always kept hidden in her heart. Are you someone who helps others so easily, helping people without even being asked? He approached her, unexpectedly posing a question. Do you think a butcher who enjoys slaughter can also have a benevolent heart? Witnessing the sunrise gradually emerge from the water, dispelling the cold of the dark night, Lexion gently affirmed, Everything has an exception, and now is an example.
At dawn, Sarah Neal returned to the mansion where she had stayed after her marriage. Kina was so overjoyed she burst into tears upon seeing her return. Madam, where have you been? I was so worried, fearing that something might have happened to you. Seeing someone care for her, Sarah Neal also felt happier. Kina, observing that she was fine and unharmed, could not restrain herself. Kina embraced Sarah Neal tightly. Madam, I can't imagine what you've been through, she cried, lamenting her recent miserable days, saying, carrying everything on your own shoulders, and then suddenly you changed. I was truly worried, but I really couldn't imagine the reason. Next, Kina carefully led Sarah Neal into the mansion. You're still trembling. Let's go inside quickly. The mansion door closed, and everything was peaceful as if nothing had happened. I've returned the items in the office to their original places. When the two returned to the room, she immediately recounted the situation with Callian and the Viscount. No, that man. Perhaps because he drank too much, he seemed to remember nothing since coming home. She understood and knew full well that with his condition, it was always like this the morning after a drunken night. Sarah Neal shed the dress she had worn last night and strode into the bathroom. Perhaps he remembered nothing about that time, which, to be honest, was working out very well.
Kina was still very angry at Callian's attitude. He asked where you were, and I said you were taking a bath. She held the bathrobe for her. However, he didn't even bother to look for you. Sarah Neal calmly walked forward. She said, Thank you. Perhaps you were right. He's eagerly waiting outside now. Soon after, Sarah Neal comfortably soaked in a rose-filled bath. Kina curiously asked, Why aren't you going to see Varys?
He just returned from his trip. You should talk to him, shouldn't you? She pensively lifted the warm water, letting it flow down her wrist. She was worried about her condition if she told him about the current situation. I bet he'll just keep quiet. Sarah Neal knew Kina's words were not wrong. I also think you're right, but I don't feel that way right now. The paper received from Lexion yesterday, the list the Duke sent, was a list of nobles who had invested in the mine, and everyone on the list was connected to her uncle. Sarah Neal rested her chin on her hand, lost in thought. Both her uncle and Callian were very strange, neither wanting to tell her about it. She looked at her young face reflected on the water. It's true, even if I don't realize anything, I should still find out what the truth is. Then Serenil suddenly stood up from the warm water. All right, prepare my things so I can visit the marquis. Kina was extremely startled to hear this. Yes, right now. She took the towel from her hand. I think I should talk to him as soon as possible. Kina held the towel tightly. No! Serenil was astonished by her actions. Kina was solely concerned about her health. At least you have to eat breakfast. You haven't eaten anything since yesterday. I don't agree. Then she rushed towards the bathroom door. You should eat something right now. I'll go prepare a meal immediately.
Serenil held a large towel to shield her body, watching Kina fly off to prepare things. Yet that action made her incredibly happy. Kina. Suddenly, Serenil realized her emotions had undergone a significant change. Just a moment ago, she had been crying, remembering Lexian's reminder from last night, but right now she should focus on what she could do. Once she sank into a feeling of hopelessness, it would be very difficult to escape it, and the more time passed, the worse things would only get. She quickly put on her bathrobe. Her spirits improved considerably. The Duke was right. To avoid falling into despair, she had to keep moving forward. Serenil brushed her hair back, feeling refreshed as she left the bathroom. She happily smiled faintly, telling herself that the Duke's advice was theoretically correct. The next time they met, she would definitely thank him. Serenil used a warm towel to wipe her face. A few days later, a carriage was prepared in front of the luxurious mansion. She comfortably enjoyed the fresh air. How long has it been since I returned to the Marquise's mansion? Serenil mused, looking up at the mansion before her. It's only been half a year since the wedding, not that long. But before I came back to life, I was very weak due to being poisoned. I couldn't even leave the mansion, let alone visit the Marquise. She happily smiled and said to the person opposite her, It's been a long time, hasn't it?
Bane bowed slightly, welcoming Serenil. It has been a long time, my lady. Bane, the butler here, who had looked after her since she was a child, still hadn't changed his way of greeting, even after she got married. Strangely, she had never noticed. He still behaved normally, as always. Please come in. I'll go prepare some tea. Serenil replied cheerfully. Thank you, Bane. He walked ahead, leading the way for her. Cerberus has been out for a while, but I believe he will be back soon. Serenil understood, slowly entering the mansion. Oh, then I'll enjoy some tea while I wait. Suddenly Bane stopped. My lady, before that, may I ask you something? Hearing that, she also stopped, turning to ask, What is it? He calmly said, You might find it strange, but I hope you will keep it to yourself. These veiled words left Serenil puzzled. Next, Bane looked left and right, observing his surroundings. Once he saw the carriage had driven off, he cautiously lowered his voice and warned her, You should not trust Cerberus.
This statement left Serenil utterly bewildered. What did he mean? Bane usually didn't say such things. He also instructed her about the garden of beautiful, blooming flowers of all colors. He told her, after she finished talking, please go behind the mansion, to the garden she used to play in as a child. Bane seriously emphasized one more thing. Come alone and don't let Cerberus know. Understood? Though confused, she still nodded in agreement, saying she would wait there. Not long after, Serenil met Varus. He always appeared as stern as ever. Varus said, I'm glad to see you've come. The two sat in a luxurious room, with large windows allowing gentle sunlight to stream in. Varus continued, I apologize for making you wait.
Varus slowly lifted his teacup. I've been too busy with trivial matters. Has something happened? Serenil tried to respond calmly. No, not really. I just wanted to visit you. She recalled Callian and Lorraine's warm family scene, along with the letter she had received earlier. A thought flashed through Serenil's mind. The other day I scraped my knee when I tripped, didn't I? No, actually, I came to tell you the truth, and also I have something I want to say. However, now she couldn't bring herself to say it. Duke Lexion would surely know what she was looking for, but how would he know? Perhaps it was due to the strange feeling she had when she went the wrong way. Lorraine casually inquired about Varus's health. Are you still well? You seem quite busy with work, don't you? Varus calmly replied, I suppose it will be like this for a while. How is Callian doing? Serenil politely stated, He's the same, just as busy. Yet she tried to maintain her composure, then said, From now on, I've decided to report to the investors who have been involved in the business. Serenil cordially pulled out a stack of papers and handed them to Varus. This is a compiled report on the mining business. Serenil pointed to the data on the paper. How many types of ore have been extracted, which ones have been processed, and I've also noted the selling price for each type. Varus stared at the rows of data in astonishment. You did all of this? You wrote it yourself? Serenil tilted her head slightly, feigning innocence. Yes, is there a problem? Varus, flustered, forced a smile. No, but you should know what's going on. I was planning to report to you every 2 weeks. Serenil bluntly exposed his plan. You've been exempted from taxes and have also gathered investors.
Varys frowned in annoyance.
Cyreniel calmly raised her teacup, continuously revealing a few vague things. Callian told me that you also helped. I don't know who they are, but I'm truly very happy. After a moment of silence, he finally spoke. Callian said that? Varys slowly placed the stack of papers on the table. Did he say anything else? She remained silent, a little thoughtful. Anything else? Then Cyreniel smiled, her eyes crinkling, and lowered her teacup. No, nothing else. Just that you participated in helping. That's all he said. Hearing this, he felt more relieved than ever. Is that so? And is there something going on between you and Callian? She carefully considered. Between me and him? Varys quickly changed the subject. It's been half a year since the wedding, hasn't it? I'm worried there's no good news yet. Cyreniel calmly replied, Not now. She calmly added something else. I will let you know as soon as there's information. Also, sir. Cyreniel directly stated the purpose of her visit. My parents' death anniversary is approaching. Hearing that, a startled look crossed his face. Has it come to that already?
Cyreniel carefully picked up the teapot, saying, Lately, I've often thought about them, so I came to visit this place. She poured tea into Varys's cup. Varys felt something strange, and he said doubtfully, Strange. Cyreniel spoke frankly about the people loitering by the cliff. There are strangers walking around to survey the area. Varys was startled, his face unable to hide his bewilderment. Cyreniel looked directly into Varys's eyes, her tone mysterious. I asked them, and they said they were conducting some kind of investigation. In the spacious living room, Varys exclaimed in alarm, What did you say? Although he felt a little uneasy, he tried to remain calm and asked again, An investigation? What kind of investigation are you talking about? Cyreniel continued to check her hot teacup. I heard that there have been several thefts in the neighboring areas in recent days. While tracking the thieves, they lost their trail, so they've been going around to check, just in case they're hiding somewhere. As she was about to drink her tea, she remembered something. I also heard that robbers sometimes appear.
Next, Cyreniel seriously reminded Varys, Please be careful every time you go out, uncle. She smiled brightly, her eyes crinkling, her words full of hidden meaning. You'll do that, right? A moment later, in the brightly colored flower garden, Cyreniel quietly strode along the small path. Ultimately, she couldn't talk about Callian, because she couldn't completely shake off her suspicion. She calmly sighed, thinking to herself, Based on Uncle's reaction when she mentioned the bandits, it seemed that not speaking was the right choice. But thinking of his unusual expression right after she finished teaching Callian a lesson, Uncle seemed to be probing her thoughts. What if? What if Lexian's reminder that night was true? Did she truly believe her parents died in an accident? Sometimes what she saw wasn't necessarily true.
She leaned against a large tree. If Duke Lexion's premonition was correct, then perhaps behind it. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Madam. Hearing that, Cyreniel immediately turned to see who had spoken. Bane observed both sides while leading the way for her. Cyreniel asked curiously, Bane, can you tell me now? She was eager to know what he had always hidden, what on earth was truly happening. Bane turned back coldly and said, I'm not sure if I should tell you, young lady. Then he seriously recounted what he knew. But I cannot stand by and watch indefinitely as a servant who has served the family for generations. The family's honor is also my honor. He is acting very strangely. Cyreniel was startled, as if realizing something. She had a hint of doubt. Strange. Bane continued to point out several abnormalities. Young lady, I think you know that he is not like he used to be. Ever since he became the head of the family, I have always feared that he would speak out against the imperial family. I feared he would make a mistake. Bane worriedly spoke about the current situation. And now it seems that fear is slowly becoming a reality.
She asked, bewildered, You know something, don't you? He gestured towards a hidden door in the garden. You should find out for yourself. Cyreniel was quite curious about this path. He took a lamp and walked ahead, leading the way. This is the passage our servants usually use. She observed the dark passage. I've been here since I was little, but was this path here before that? He continued to lead Cyreniel to a tunnel. Perhaps you don't know, young lady, but then he helped her down the steps. This mansion has a basement, and only long-serving staff know of its existence. She lifted her long dress, carefully following him. It's never been used, so there's something hidden here, isn't there? He calmly replied. Yes, that's right. However, he has always been puzzled by a few recent incidents. In recent days, many guests who came to the mansion have gone missing, and they all belong to a single type of individual, nobles close to the royal family. Hearing this, she widened her eyes in shock. Among them are Baron Il-Ilianton and Marquis Lebane. These names were all on the list Cyreniel had received.
Bane took out a bunch of silver keys, using one to open the front door. Cyreniel stepped into the room herself. She would understand once she saw it with her own eyes. Before Cyreniel lay all sorts of weapons. She was stunned, not understanding exactly what was happening. A row of spears was neatly arranged, next to sharp, spiky maces. There were also several axes and saws. While Cyreniel was still in shock, Bane continued, My lady, you are the last to carry the Verilette family bloodline.
This is treason, my lady, most certainly treason. He raised his lamp so Serenil could admire the scene. Suddenly, she walked quickly forward, an action that surprised Bane. My lady. Serenil had it straight for a chest. She opened the lid and took out the item inside. See, a list with almost all their names. Serenil slowly unrolled the paper to examine it. The list contained names she had seen hundreds of times, as well as the loss of investments. Bane, seeing the paper, could not hide his curiosity. My lady, what is that? She calmly explained to him. My uncle lured nobles to invest in my mine. All those nobles shared the same thoughts as my uncle. One could say they would transfer all business profits to Varys. These words shocked Bane. What? She stepped aside to let him see the piles of documents and the enormous arsenal there. With that money, he bribed them. Serenil irritably clutched the paper in her hand. The reason they invested in the mine is because they had run out of budget for treason.
She was quite surprised by the words of the person opposite her. Then why do you think so, my lady, when you are the true owner of that mine, and Sir Varys is your master? Serenil calmly confirmed what the other person suspected. That's right. Serenil thought to herself, the Varys family has served the royal family for generations, even though the relationship between the two sides is quite close, yet they hid all the truth from me, even granting me tax exemption, and gathering investors. She thought she finally understood why Lexion had said that day he would wait for her to come for help. I will wait until you come to ask for my help. Why did Duke Lexion say that she needed his help? Suddenly a mystical light emanated, drawing her attention. This, a large orb shot out small lightning bolts. My lady, this is an image storage stone.
She carefully lifted the image storage stone. A copy. The real one must be hidden somewhere. Then Serenil placed the image storage stone back on its stand. A copy will disappear on its own after being viewed only once, so it's hopeless. The fact that this is here means it must contain something very important. She caressed the image storage stone. That's certainly true, but if we view it here, it will disappear, and they will know someone broke in. Serenil also anticipated the outcome of viewing it. I will be the first suspect, the one directly responsible for the decision. View it. He was resolute in his choice. If I miss it today, there won't be a second chance. Even if I wait for a second opportunity, there's no way to view it without making it disappear. She was still somewhat hesitant. After a moment of consideration, Serenil gently touched the stone. She directly disengaged the latch of the image storage stone. A massive surge of energy emanated from within the stone. The image of the study appeared, Varys conversing with Callion. I heard this story. It's quite interesting, isn't it? He mentioned his relationship with Lorray, that you have an extramarital affair with another woman.
Callion was terrified when he heard Varys expose the long-hidden truth that he even had a child with her. Varys said, lying won't do you any good. I know everything already. Callion was deeply shocked. He said, Uncle, you know? He showed no fear of his words. If you want to threaten me, it's hopeless. Callion even threatened Varys back. I know a few things too. Varys was quite intrigued, asking, like what? Callion smirked triumphantly. For example, you're the one who killed Serenil's parents. Serenil was stunned to learn the truth about her parents' accident. She stammered, Auntie, he just... A cunning voice rang out, making her tremble with rage. Stupid Serenil knows nothing, but I saw everything. How your men tied up the bodies and threw them all into the carriage. Serenil knows nothing, but the truth is still plain to see. Varys was quite confident in his wicked plan. That girl can't do anything. When she's useless, you can dispose of her as you please. Suddenly, Bane's bewildered voice rang out. My lady? Serenil startled awake from her daze. Bane was worried when he heard sounds coming from afar. My lady? Bane looked towards the tightly closed door. Who's there? Serenil was shocked to realize someone had entered.
Seeing her face turn pale with fear, he guessed it was likely Marquis Varys Verdelet. Serenil panicked, not knowing how to handle the current situation. If we were discovered, he would surely eliminate both of us. Bane understood this well and secretly made up his mind. Then he resolutely strode forward. This sudden action startled her. He used all his strength to push the weapon rack. Seeing Bane still trying to push it, she asked doubtfully, Bane, what are you doing? And then a passage behind the weapon rack appeared. It was a secret escape route. If she followed this path, she would arrive at any random location. He wiped the sweat from his face, then urged Serenil, Miss, please escape through this passage. Bane further instructed, this is confidential information that no one should know, not even Marquis Verdelet. She was still in shock.
Then he pushed Serenil into the secret passage. Hurry, what else are you worried about? But wait, what about you? You have to come with me. If you stay here, you'll be doomed. He understood her thoughts, but this place needed someone to stay. He offered a gentle smile to reassure Serenil. I can't go. I have no purpose to leave now. I will try to buy as much time as possible. She was stunned, unable to accept this truth. What? Serenil wanted him to leave with her. However, he pulled the weapon rack back to its original position. "Hurry, sir, you might get caught." "My lady, remember not to go the wrong way." Before closing it, he didn't forget to give one last instruction. "Just go straight, understand?" She desperately clutched the broken photo storage stone. "No, if Marquis Vardillet finds you, your life will—" By then, the weapon rack had completely concealed the secret passage. He panted, exhausted. He recalled his childhood days. Little Sarah Neal, hugging a stuffed rabbit, sat among fragrant flower bushes. Fragile, tiny, a pitiful young lady who spent all her days confined to the mansion grounds. Whenever she saw something new, Sarah Neal would giggle with delight.
Back then, Bane carefully lifted her, sleeping soundly in his arms. He gently soothed her so Sarah Neal could have the best sleep. She was like his child, a marquise's daughter whom he truly loved, and the last master he would serve. Sarah Neal had always been kind, intelligent, and strong enough to endure everything. At that time, Bane let her rest her head on his shoulder, sleeping deeply. He thought to himself, "So please, escape safely and return to live peaceful days." Currently, Barris opened the room door and stepped inside, his voice cold. "What are you doing here?" Bane remained silent. Receiving no answer, he angrily yelled, "Bane!" At this moment, Sarah Neal was making her way forward along a narrow path. Her hands continuously fumbled along the adjacent wall to guide her steps. Her feet moved ceaselessly forward. In the dark corridor, there wasn't even a flickering candlelight. Sarah Neal was saddened, tears streaming down, understanding clearly in her heart. Bane would be destroyed in that dungeon, just like her father and mother. She gritted her teeth, her eyes revealing a deep-seated hatred etched into her very bones. He even tried to eliminate her completely, cleanly, leaving no trace.
From this archive orb he had swallowed, a strange energy emanated. Images of Varys plotting to harm others appeared in his mind. Once she lost her value, she would be eliminated immediately. He bluntly proposed a deal with Callian. Callian replied, "Then how about making a deal with me?" He was slightly surprised. What kind of deal? Varys confidently smirked with a cunning smile. "Funding. I will gather sponsors, and you will share a portion of the profits from the magic stones with me. In return, your true family will be safe." He sinisterly reached into his coat and pulled out something. "I trust your wisdom. What do you think? But there's one condition." Callian was quite puzzled. "A condition?" And then Varys presented a bottle of birth control pills. "You will never be able to have children with Syrianel Verdelet." He continued, "Once your career is strong enough, you'll eliminate Syrianel, won't you? Besides that, you cannot keep the magic stones for yourself." He picked up the bottle and examined it carefully. Varys remained calm, as if plotting against someone was a common occurrence. "And I will help you with that. But right now, having Syrianel by your side is truly troublesome, because she can inherit them, so never have children with anyone except a mistress."
"Can you promise?" They, holding the potion, resolutely affirmed, "Of course." Having witnessed this scene, she furiously gnashed her teeth, her eyes brimming with tears. So it was Marquis Varys who proposed that damned potion, those dogs. Sarah Neal quickly strode towards the old wooden door, where only a sliver of light seeped through the crack, the exit. She rushed straight ahead, not knowing what scene awaited her outside. Sarah Neal reached out and grasped the iron ring on the door. She decisively flung the door open, and the cool moonlight rushed in, enveloping Sarah Neal's entire body. She stared blankly at the scene outside, feeling the fresh air. Kina, after a period of waiting, also saw Sarah Neal. "Madam!" She sobbed uncontrollably, loudly calling her name. "Kina!" She was startled when she saw her appearance. "Madam!"
Sarah Neal collapsed and sat on the ground. "Kina, what should I do? That's Bane, but she doesn't know the situation. What happened to you over there?" Kina was confused, not knowing how to comfort her. "I was told to wait for you here even if you were late, so I waited here." Sarah Neal looked up in despair. "I can't let anything happen to him. We have to go save him." She remembered Lexion's words and had made up her mind. He was right. "I'll wait until you need my help. I can't do it alone." And there was also that playful warning. "Of course, you should also prepare, just like when you gave Powell a large sum of money to keep him quiet." Lexion angrily gritted his teeth, clutching the image storage stone in his hand. "I don't care what he asks of me, if it's from the bottom of his heart." Elsewhere, a small butterfly flapped its emerald wings, traveling everywhere. The small butterfly landed on a vibrant flower garden. At the Duke's luxurious mansion, the golden-orange sunset covered the entire place. Lexion leaned against the window frame. "To me, these things are not much different from a fundamental change, as if a season has passed, every time I am surrounded by blooming flowers."
The bloody corpses abandoned by Lexion on the battlefield, he would still turn his back, uncaring. As night fell, Lexion smiled faintly with satisfaction. But today was different. Perhaps this would be the first spring he had ever felt since the day he was born. However, he happily corrected himself. No, that's not right. Today is already spring. That day, watching the carriage disappear into the distance, at that debut, the moment he stood watching the carriage, waiting for her, slowly fade into the night, it felt as if spring petals were dancing in the wind. Lexion stood silently, letting the wind scatter the falling petals, as if his heartbeat was dancing in his chest. He pressed a hand to his chest, feeling the chaotic rhythm. How long have I been waiting for this person? Lexion touched the door frame, his heart always full of anticipation. No, why now? Or perhaps never. Then he slowly clenched his hand into a fist, especially after eliminating his paralyzed father and all the relatives who had always tormented him, after holding the entire family in the palm of his hand. Next, Lexion noticed the carriage stop on the road outside. No one had ever made him wait so long. Serenil took off her hat and slowly exited the carriage, all but one person. He saw her exquisite face, his sole exception. Then Serenil walked to the door of the study, and Lexion spoke indifferently. How strange. He sat coldly on the chair, opening a book to read. I thought you would never come, so why are you here so early? Lexion smiled and lowered the book. Is there something you need, Serenil? Now, in her tired eyes, only his reflection remained. Serenil strode up to Lexion. I came because I have something to ask. I apologize for coming without an appointment. He replied indifferently. I don't mind.
Lexion calmly asked what she wanted. So what do you want to ask? Serenil got straight to the point. You once said you would help me, didn't you? She asked seriously. Are those words still valid? Lexion remained silent, the corners of his lips unconsciously curved upwards. He leisurely picked up his teacup and took a sip, then calmly placed it back on the small saucer. I heard you visited the Marquise's mansion yesterday. Did something happen? I heard that after you left, the Marquise's butler also disappeared. Serenil was startled and surprised that Lexion had such quick access to information. He still looked coldly down at the page of his book. Is that why you came here? She was still reeling from Lexion's words. As expected, Duke Lexion knew everything. He could know all information, near or far, just as he had built close relationships with vendors in the market to gather information, and with her, too. He was constantly fighting and killing on the battlefield. Lexion Rosenwester, who was dubbed the Lord of the Battlefield, a butcher, because he was an illegitimate child. He was hated for his half-breed blood and controlled by the Rosenwester family, in addition to the truths everyone knew.
Observing his appearance, intently reading a book, Serenil knew nothing about this man. What kind of person was he, after all? She didn't know what Lexion was planning, but why did he know everything? She couldn't understand why he was trying to help her. She was at a loss, not knowing whom to trust. Could she trust him? Serenil slowly opened her mouth, but then stopped. She could only beg Lexion for help. At this moment, she had no other choice, except to rely on the Duke's embrace.
Serenil feigned weakness, as if she had nowhere left to turn, and pleaded earnestly, Marry me, please. He was taken aback by her voice. Lexion immediately closed his book. What? She continued to explain her current situation in a pitiful tone. As you know, my life is in danger. To survive, first I must leave the Viscount's mansion. He smiled faintly and slowly stood up. In other words, you want me to help you divorce your husband. Lexion stated Serenil's intention plainly. He suddenly leaned close to her. But you know, don't you? Varys would never agree to that. Serenil was so startled by his sudden movement that she fell silent. Lexion smugly exposed their scheme. They are bound together by common interests, and that bond grew even stronger after Callian started the mining business. He calmly faced her. The mine is heavily taxed. Varys must have helped to lighten the tax burden, and perhaps even shared in the profits. Serenil stared at him in confusion. She clutched her dress tightly in her hands, lowered her face, and declared, My goal is not just to live. Then Serenil looked up and said loudly, I want to reclaim the mine from Callian, and I will not let Varys touch it again.
Lexion asked indifferently, Don't you want him to take it? She affirmed resolutely, Yes, I will make them pay for what they did. Of course, I will do it myself so as not to trouble you. Serenil was somewhat afraid for herself. However, I need a little protection. Becoming a duchess wouldn't affect much, would it? In the moment the two faced each other, Serenil thought to herself, But I don't wish for Duke Lexion to marry me just for a one-sided reason. Just like that morning, he was by her side. Lexion said, I will wait for you to come and ask for my help. Serenil thought to herself, If he truly wants to help me, and if he truly intends to give me so much, then he will agree to this sudden request. However, Serenil was restless, pondering endlessly. I know this is a gamble. Does the Duke overestimate me? Outside the window, the full moon shone brightly high in the sky. Serenil hastily and firmly asserted, In return, I promise you, you will never lose, sir. Lexion immediately retorted,
Then is it beneficial for me? He rested his chin on his hand, slowly leading Serenil into the plan as Varys and Callian had done. Why not make a contract with me right away?
Like that kind of magic ore. No one knows, but soon the magic ore in that mine will be mine. You know the profits from magic ore. I will share them with you, so you won't lose out. However, Lexion wasn't interested in any of that. He thought, am I short on money? The other person quickly changed the subject, asking, is there anything else? Serenil was stunned to hear that, stammering, yes? But Lexion flatly dismissed the matter of the mine. He said, what I want to know is not about that mine, Serenil Verdelet. Serenil, flustered, stumbled back a few steps. However, Lexion wrapped his arms around Serenil. He pulled her close to him, bowed his head, and whispered, at least you're serious about marriage, aren't you? Lexion continuously questioned, answer me, Serenil. Do you really want to divorce him? Serenil, wide-eyed in shock, stammered her confirmation. Yes, I am serious.
Serenil, in Lexion's arms, whispered, but I haven't loved Callian Helcar for a long time. She placed her hand, still bearing her wedding ring, on his chest. A person's heart can change, so there's no other reason. Then Serenil pushed away the hand that was around her waist. I'm not asking for a lifelong marriage, just 1 year, until everything is complete. She sadly lowered her gaze. After all, I will divorce if you wish. Your grace I will accept. Serenil pleaded with him again, so please. Lexion placed the book on the table. He looked straight towards the brightly lit window. It seems you don't understand the basics of this contract at all, do you? She looked a little doubtful. The basics of the contract? Lexion tremblingly touched the cover of the book. In a contract, the issue isn't what you can give, but what the other party wants. Then he decisively turned around. Let's do it, Varys Verdelet. Before Serenil's bewildered expression, he laid out all his plans. I will help you get a divorce and eliminate Varys as well, and if you want anything else, that's fine too.
Lexion gradually approached her. Even with rumors spreading about a terrible man like him stealing a wife, he didn't seem to care much. He casually stroked Serenil's lustrous golden hair. In return, I want what I want from you. Of course, I have 2 conditions. First, you must completely get rid of that terrible man. She flinched, a little disbelieving. What? Lexion continued to speak of the remaining condition. And second, you must marry me forever. In other words, you will be bound to me. Not long after, a luxurious carriage rolled along the dirt road. Seeing Serenil sitting sullenly without a word, he remarked with a hint of amusement, You seem quite flustered, don't you? I thought we'd make a contract right away, didn't we? Or do you regret it now? Is the price for your silence too high? She stammered in response. No, it's not like that. At this, he brought up Serenil's previous question. You often ask why I try to help you. Lexion maintained his calm demeanor and gave her the answer. It's simple, because you are very valuable to me. Serenil looked up, observing his expression. Valuable? Sir, don't tell me. She was quite flustered, unsure if she was speaking out of turn. Do you have feelings for me? Serenil nervously clutched her dress. I mean, romantic feelings? She abruptly turned to the window, avoiding his gaze. I don't intend to trust anyone anymore, even if you say you shouldn't have personal feelings for me. At this, Serenil felt deeply troubled. I've learned enough. The price of foolish trust.
I will not repeat that mistake ever again, Lexion said calmly. I'm not telling you that you have to trust me. Your marriage is nothing but shackles binding you. Trust is not something that can be obtained just by asking others. I am truly serious that I can make you happier than Callian Helcar did, so please accept me. You must have also considered, if everything could be accomplished just through words, this wouldn't last long. Lexion's face remained expressionless. Anyway, I will fulfill your wish, which is not difficult for me. He began to discuss a cooperation agreement. Let it be a marriage contract. Then, within a year, if you still don't trust me, you can do whatever you want. Is that okay? Agreed? Serenil couldn't believe this was real.
The carriage, hidden in the woods, passed by a mansion. For your safety, you should only stay around here. With that, the carriage stopped. He said indifferently, Before we sign, promise me one thing. From now on, I will always be behind you, so don't worry about anyone who might harm you. Lexion carefully opened the carriage door. I already know the people around you, so you don't need to worry about your safety. Watching her put on her hat, he didn't forget to instruct. From now on, just live comfortably when there's nothing threatening you. You'll arrive at the main mansion soon. Then Lexion slowly stood up. I agree to all crusts, including the preparations for the wedding. Serenil asked doubtfully, Going that far? I'll take care of it myself. No, let me do it. Lexion turned back, saying confidently,
At least it should be grander than the first time, right? I can't let my wife be outdone by the shadow of her ex-husband. But furthermore, there's something more important. Looking at his outstretched hand, she was quite curious about what Lexian was about to say. What's more important? Serenil placed her hand on his large hand, then lifted her skirt and stepped out of the carriage. Lexian leaned down, asking in a low voice, "If we're doing this for real, shouldn't we prepare a stage?" She was surprised. A stage? Observing Serenil's calm demeanor, he slowly replied, "The news of your divorce will have a big impact. We need a stage to shock them."
2 days later, Kalyan's frantic scream echoed from outside. "Serenil! Serenil! Something terrible has happened!" In contrast to his panic, Serenil remained completely calm. She slowly closed the book in her hand and placed it on the table. Serenil casually asked Kalyan, "What's so terrible? What happened, Kalyan?" Serenil's useless husband recounted, trembling. "There was an accident at the mine. It happened last night." "A mine explosion. No one was hurt." But Serenil coldly cut Kalyan off with a probing question. "An explosion?" Kalyan also seemed very surprised by this strange incident. "That's strange. I invited experts to thoroughly inspect the safety issues before mining began." Serenil asked him again, "So, an explosion, why so sudden?"
Kalyan didn't answer that question. He tried to blame others. Recently, someone from the royal family came to inquire about him. Kalyan continued, "They said we have to immediately stop all mining operations and confiscate the minerals. What the hell is going on? Why is this suddenly happening?" Serenil's mouth fell open in utter astonishment. She suddenly realized, so this is, I think I understand now, the reason for this, and who is behind all of this. Serenil suppressed a smile, remembering yesterday's conversation, a play that had been staged. At that time, Lexian had casually replied, "Well, believe it or not, but I swear out a swordsman's honor, the first event will happen within the next few days. Kalyan will burst into your room with an extremely worried expression. If you are as smart as I think you are, you'll realize it. Remember to enjoy that moment. Now the game truly begins." Serenil covered her mouth to stop herself from letting out a happy laugh. "So this is what the Duke was talking about." "Calm down, Kalyan. It's truly an unfortunate accident, but it's not that big of a deal." Kalyan impatiently interrupted and shouted, "What are you saying? But we have to pay a sum of money to the investors and to your uncle too." Serenil spoke to Kalyan, but her eyes remained fixed on her book. "We've earned a lot up until now, haven't we?" Kalyan trembled as he replied, "Yes, that's right, but..." Serenil said to Kalyan, "Actually, I've calculated our recent profits, and with our current finances, we can still sustain ourselves for a few months, can't we? If you don't want to use that money, there's another option. However, we'll probably have to sell that villa." Kalyan heard that and immediately yelled, "Serenil!"
"That villa was bought for you. We can't give it up that easily." Serenil looked surprised. "Oh, really?" Kalyan continued to ask Serenil, "But don't you think it's a waste? We've never even been there together." Serenil hesitated briefly. "That's true, but I don't mind, if this can help you." Kalyan stood up, as if Serenil's words had plunged his heart into horror. He said, I understand. Then,
Kalyan whispered to Serenil, "But there's something I really want you to do." Serenil looked at him. "What do you want me to do?" Kalyan frowned and said, "You are the true owner of the mine, so please contact the royal family and sort this out. We already passed the safety survey before mining, and besides, we'll have to restart the mining operation, which will take even more time." Serenil froze, the smile on her lips stiffening. Kalyan had no idea that everything he said to his mistress had reached Serenil's ears. "Honestly, I'm so scared. She's such an idiot, she knows nothing about business." Larry then laughed and said, "Let me tell her again." Serenil suddenly found it amusing. "All right, I understand. I'll contact them right away. Leave it to me. And I'll also talk to Kalyan. I may not understand much about business, but there's one thing I do know." Kalyan paused. "What do you know?" Serenil replied, "Safety comes first in all circumstances, so you will also be suspended from visiting the mine for inspection. I will also request the royal family to conduct a thorough investigation into this matter."
Kalyan flared up, about to shout, but Serenil stopped them. "Come on, think of this as a rare opportunity to enjoy a vacation. Oh, that's right, this is a good chance for us to go to that villa, so I'll take care of the things you assigned me." Serenil leisurely left with a smile and Lexian's multi-layered words. "If you're smart enough, you'll know exactly what to handle. Just enjoy that feeling of satisfaction." Serenil thought to herself, although the formula says so, deciding to ignore everything isn't a bad idea. What could be more humiliating than having to bow down to a woman I despise? The next morning, Lexian ordered his subordinates, "Is that clear? Take this away as quickly and quietly as possible." His subordinates quickly received the order. "Understood. I'm going now." Lexian was left alone in the room, gently tapping his fingers on the table. He suddenly remembered what Serenil had told him. "Although it might be a bit impertinent, I have one more request. Please find out what truly happened to my family's butler." Lexian advised Serenil, "It's late now. I think it's truly too late to start this." "At least the body," Serenil pleaded. "Please, I beg you, sir." Serenil's pleas softened Lexian's heart. "All right,
But I want you to explain to me first why the butler became Varys's target. Serenil quickly replied. The butler went down to the basement, and there was a memory stone there.
Lexian asked Serenil, "A memory stone?" Serenil replied, "The bane inside it is the entire conversation between Callian and Varys, everything the Duke said." Lexian looked at Serenil and asked again, "So that's all?" Finally, I understood why Serenil had come to me for help. "What happened to that stone?" Serenil hesitated before answering. "It started to crack after we heard footsteps. It was just a replica. I gathered the fragments to take them with me." Lexian was very surprised. "You took it? Why?" Serenil lowered her head and replied in a low voice, "Because he is still in the cellar. If the broken stone were left in the cellar, he would have no excuse. So if it were stolen, I thought we could at least buy a similar one in a short time." Lexian fell silent, unsure of what to say. However, just a moment later, he quickly said, "That's right." Hearing that, Serenil immediately looked up at Lexian. "Huh?" Lexian instructed her. "Varys is a cautious man. Until he finds everything, he won't easily eliminate the butler. If he had found the butler with the memory stone in hand, he would surely have eliminated that person by now. In this case, it seems we have more work to do." The memory ended, and Lexian hummed softly to himself. And also...
Lexion looked at Powell. This time he guessed correctly. "I called for you because I have something I need to buy." Powell carefully bowed his head and replied, "If there's anything you need, please say so." Lexion said, It seems I need that thing as soon as possible. I need a new carriage, a spacious and comfortable one." Powell was surprised. "Huh? A spacious carriage? Why suddenly?" Lexion just smiled. "Yes, it's very urgent. I can't wait any longer." In Lexion's mind, an image of his own shyness flickered like a trembling kitten. That evening, Callion went to see his mistress. She shouted, "What? Callion, what do you mean?" Callion replied shamefully, "I'm sorry." Lorray was obviously furious. "What are you thinking?" Callion continued to defend himself. "I had no other choice. In front of that woman, I didn't expect her to pull such a stunt." Lorray ordered Callion, "You'd better stop her. Where do you think Benny and I can go after leaving here?" Callion whispered, "Calm down. You'll wake Benny." Indeed, Lorray was so angry that she gritted her teeth. She clicked her tongue. "That woman, I should have gotten rid of her a long time ago."
Lorray gnashed her teeth and rolled her eyes as she scolded Serenil. "She's always like that, always with that stupid face, saying nonsense, getting in my way and tripping me up." Perhaps her frenzied state had scared Callion. He said, "Lorray, if you speak so loudly, Benny will wake up. Just calm down. I'll prepare a new house. This time it's very close to the Viscount's mansion. I'll visit every day."
Just stay here tonight, and we can discuss it tomorrow, okay? As soon as Callion finished speaking, Lorray let out a cold snort. "Oh, so what you mean is you intend to continue staying at the Viscount's mansion, after abandoning me and Benny like that? So you still choose to live with that stupid Serenil. She must be very happy being by your side." Callion was a little flustered. "Why are you saying that? I only have you." Lorray suddenly glared at Callion and hissed, "Watch your words, Callion." Because his small mistress suddenly lunged forward and grabbed his neck, Callion felt scared. "Lorray!" Callion's mistress tightened her grip on Callion's neck as she spoke. "If any strange rumors reach my ears, you won't be as free as you are now." The next day, Serenil and Mrs. Kina arrived at the villa she had previously purchased, using Lexion's carriage. "Oh my, what a spacious and luxurious carriage. What's going on here?" Serenil suddenly paused. She remembered the last time she had sat in such a carriage with Lexion. Lexion's words from before echoed in her ears. "Don't you like this spaciousness? To marry you, I suppose I'll have to prepare a carriage first, won't I?" Serenil couldn't help but burst out laughing. Mrs. Kina softly asked, "Madam?" Serenil smiled and said, "You'll see soon enough. Let's go." Serenil thought, "I know he's busy, but I really want to go to the ducal mansion. I want to hear his thoughts on my incident, and most of all, there's something I want to tell him." Upon arrival, Mrs. Kina exclaimed in surprise, "Madam, isn't this the Rosenwester ducal mansion? Why are we here?" Serenil calmly replied, "The Duke has already agreed to help me." Mrs. Kina stammered, "What?" Serenil said in a serious tone, "You should understand, Kina, that I have no one left to trust now."
Madame Kina still couldn't believe what she was seeing, but she knew what kind of person Duke Rosenwester and his wife were. However, her words were cut short. "Oh, you surprise me. I wonder what Miss Serenil here thinks of me. Tell me, what kind of person do you think I am? Or servant, why don't you tell me?" Madame Kina stammered in fear. "This," Lexion asked with a smile. "What?" Madame Kina was too scared to speak. "This, I... Only then did Serenil speak up. "Sir, my apologies. I apologize for her disrespect. She has been my loyal servant for many years now. Her manner of speaking is a bit beyond my control, so I hope you will forgive her." Madame Kina bowed low. "Forgive me, sir, I truly didn't mean it." Lexion said with a generous smile, "You don't need to tremble like that. I don't care much what others think. From now on, come in. Doubt isn't a bad thing. It's like a shield to protect oneself. Madame Kina's mouth fell open. Yes. Both followed Lexion's footsteps inside.
Sereniel walked and thought. She hadn't realized it last time, but there was something very lonely about this mansion, contrary to its grand exterior. Lexion suddenly turned his head and said, "There's no one here but me. Those who used to be here either died or ran away." Sereniel let out a soft, Lexion smiled again and asked, "Doesn't that make sense? I became the head of the family despite being an illegitimate child. The fate of the legitimate children was sealed that day." Sereniel thought to herself, speaking of such painful things with such a calm demeanor, could that also be called a kind of talent? More importantly, where am I going? This lie is getting out of hand. Lexion stopped. He said without turning his head, "I remember, but I don't know that I've brought many people to many places. The Marquis Verdelet's estate is no exception." Sereniel didn't understand what he meant and asked, "What do you mean, sir?"
Lexion said as he opened the door. "That's why I saved him. He's not dead, or to put it bluntly, he pulled through." Sereniel was very agitated when she saw the wounded butler lying on the bed. "Bane!" Sereniel exclaimed. "Bane, I'm sorry, I left you behind. I couldn't even save you." "Bane," the butler said tremblingly. "What are you talking about? I heard from the Duke that you told him to save me. If it weren't for you, young lady, I might have died there. So please don't cry." He turned to Lexion. "And Duke, I am truly grateful to you." Lexion replied casually, "No need, I just did it on my way." Bane was surprised. "On your way?" Lexion smiled and said, "I need a butler, and I heard you're very good. Plus, you've served her for a long time. My wife will adapt to this place faster if you're here." Not only the butler, but also Mrs. Kina was astonished. She stammered, "Wife? Wife? You said wife?" Lexion turned to look at Sereniel, whose cheeks were flushed beside him. "That's right, isn't it, Sereniel?" She shyly whispered, "Hey." Mrs. Kina stammered in alarm, "Sir, you've—" Sereniel smiled. "I don't think I said anything too hard to understand."
Lexion said to both of them, "It's simple. Sereniel will soon have a new husband and a new name, and the butler and maid here will serve the new master." Sereniel continued Lexion's words. "The Duke is right. You both already know the contents of the image stone, don't you? I've decided to reclaim everything in one go, both the Verdelet family and the mine, but I can't do it alone." The butler tremblingly asked, "My lady, if that's the case, wouldn't it be best to leave the royal family?" Sereniel was a little agitated. She said loudly, "This is my decision, Bane." The butler glanced at Lexion. He thought to himself, "I know that look. I've seen it before. I still remember that look on the first day I met Duke Lexion, a boy hiding in the shadows, looking into my room from outside. Even in the dark, I could see it clearly, his cheeks flushed and his sparkling, trembling eyes. That's the face of every young man who has fallen in love. Could it be true? I just hope my lady doesn't encounter any misfortune." That afternoon, Sereniel returned with Mrs. Kina. Lexion suddenly called out to Mrs. Kina, "You, ma'am." Kina, startled, turned around sharply. "Yes."
Lexion instructed Mrs. Kina, "While Sereniel is at the Marquis's mansion, you have a duty to always stay by her side." Mrs. Kina stammered, "Duty? What do you mean, Your Grace?" Lexion calmly said, "As you do with me, suspect everything." Mrs. Kina was startled. Yes. Lexion smiled. "The more you suspect those around her, the more her safety will be ensured, especially in a situation like this." Sereniel told Lexion, "Don't worry, no maid is more trustworthy than Kina. Duke Lexion, you have made me incredibly grateful for being by my side and for all your worries for me." Lexion was a little surprised. "This is the first time you've thanked me." Sereniel smiled brightly. "Duke Lexion, my heart is filled with gratitude."
Sereniel placed her hand on her chest, and flowers seemed to bloom around the two of them. "Duke Lexion, I am truly very grateful to you." Their four eyes met, sincerely and deeply. Lexion couldn't help but smile. He directly asked Sereniel for her thoughts. "So what do you think? You like what I've done, don't you?" She didn't hesitate to answer immediately. "To be honest, I didn't expect you to act so quickly." Lexion humbly replied, "It wasn't that quick. I even thought I would destroy Kalyan Helkar with this incident." He continued, "Don't you think letting him die like that is too easy?" His question made Sereniel laugh. She explained, "During the investigation of the mine, he offered me to testify for him in court. It seems he's truly scared now." Lexion inquired, "So what do you plan to do?" She quickly set a goal. "I don't know much about business, but let's prioritize safety first. I want the royal family to open a more thorough investigation into this matter." Her decision stunned Lexion for a few seconds because he hadn't expected it, but he immediately offered advice. "Oh, in that case, we must be more careful, because they will investigate thoroughly and won't overlook any small details." Hearing that, Sereniel glowed with gratitude. "Thank you, I'm counting on you."
Her smile seemed to be etched deep into Lexion's eyes. In the past, I used to be jealous when I saw you smile at him, but now it's different. What I see in your eyes is only me. Your radiant and beautiful smile truly means a lot to me. His hand unconsciously rose, as if wanting to caress Sereniel's image in his mind.
But Lexion suddenly returned to reality. It seemed Callian was preparing a new residence right next to the Marquise's mansion. He lowered his face, avoiding showing excessive worry. I fear he intends to house that woman and her child there. We should now assign a servant to handle matters outside the mansion. Saying so, he raised his head and looked into Sereniel's eyes. After all, you wouldn't want to see their faces. Time flew by, and it was the next day. The warm morning sunlight poured down on the luxurious mansion. The Duke had said so, but...
Sereniel, in her pristine dress, gently urged, "Kina, hurry up." In her heart, she was mentally prepared. There was no reason for her to hide anymore. Besides, I'm ready to meet them both. Kina asked kindly, "Where are you planning to go today, my lady?" She smiled at her and reassured her, "I have business at the shop today. Don't worry, I won't be going to the Duke's mansion anymore." Afterward, the two went down to the street together. Sereniel walked ahead and started a conversation. "Kina, the weather is really nice today, isn't it?" Kina, walking behind, nodded in agreement. "Yes, it is." Suddenly, she leaned closer to Sereniel and whispered softly, "Oh, my lady, regarding Duke Lexion, he's not as bad as the rumors say." She feigned innocence and replied casually, "Is that so?" Her nonchalant, as if she knew it already attitude made Kina explain further. "When I met him, I thought we were doomed." A moment later, she changed her tone. "But I think someone like him could help you, my lady." Sereniel covered her mouth and chuckled. That's right."
Kina tried to tell her more, and he also helped him. He had already told me what happened. She revealed that he still pretended to be foolish despite being tortured, stubbornly claiming he knew nothing, and then he was beaten severely. But when he was left coldly, someone secretly came to rescue him. Hearing that, Sereniel thought to herself, "It must be the person the Duke sent. I've dragged the Duke into trouble again." Varys must have realized there was a reason for the party's disappearance. He probably already suspects the Duke. The crowded group moved along the road. Suddenly, Kina asked again, as if probing, "But your marriage is long-term, isn't it?" Sereniel paused briefly. "It's just a contract marriage," she said. She turned to reassure her, "So don't worry about it." In her heart, she was also reminding herself, it's just a contract. The two arrived in a place of nobility and luxury. Someone quickly approached and respectfully reported, "Welcome, Your Excellency, Viscount. I am the branch manager. I have prepared the statement you requested to confirm your balance." Sereniel sat on the chair and nodded slightly. "Thank you, sir." Suddenly, she presented an item. "By the way, I have a few things to allow me to store my valuables," she asked. She wondered, where did Callian hide the mine's profits? A bank? But Callian isn't foolish. He certainly wouldn't put it under his own name. Sereniel shrewdly deduced, so there's only one answer, Lorray. The manager explained clearly, "Of course, we can keep it for you. However, because the royal family conducts strict reviews and inventories of such matters, we require documentation for those items." Tonight, Sereniel quietly read the statistics. That meant Varys had no chance to smuggle pure magic stones in here. After a while, Sereniel and Kina went to another shop. The shop owner warmly welcomed them. Sereniel smiled gratefully. "Thank you for testing my tea last time." She then expressed with an action, "Please accept this as a token of my gratitude." He happily accepted the money bag. Well, I am truly honored." But Sereniel added another condition, "And I have another request. Could you prepare a report on the tea's ingredients? I will leave the tea here for you to keep." He immediately agreed. "Understood." Sereniel left with peace of mind. "I'm entrusting it to you." Kina followed, asking worriedly, "When do you plan to make this public?" She calmly replied, "Only when the time is ripe." Her eyes narrowed with determination, "But not now. Even if I report this to the royal family, it won't solve anything. Of course, this matter will be considered a serious crime." But she wasn't prepared for such an easy revenge, nor did she know when the investigation would take place. There was no way Lorray wouldn't have planned an escape route for herself. She had calculated everything in her mind, which was why she wouldn't let them get away. She would corner them. She would expose them. Kina was also furious. No matter how many times she thought about it, she couldn't forgive them. How dared they treat her like that? She trembled with anger, loudly recalling past favors. "It's all because of the late Viscount that I was able to leave the orphanage and live this life. If it weren't for Matt, I might be wandering the streets right now." Suddenly, she looked in one direction and cried out. Sereniel didn't understand what was happening, so she asked, "Kina?" She followed Kina's gaze. "What is it?" Sereniel asked. Kina frantically interjected, "Madam, wait." Sereniel froze, startled when she saw what Kina was looking at. Kina called out to her in confusion, "Madam." It turned out that before their eyes was Lorray's happy family. Until now, all of this had been surprising, but witnessing it firsthand made her even more annoyed. She watched their cheerful, vibrant demeanor and silently judged.
on the street, and like this. In an instant, Larray quickly realized that Sereniel was watching them.
Kalyan noticed her unusual behavior. Larray, what's wrong with you all of a sudden? Then he was startled and flinched when he saw Sereniel approaching. She calmly and politely greeted. Hello, Larray. What a coincidence to see you here again. Larray broke out in a cold sweat. Sereniel, beside Kalyan, was no less panicked. Sereniel softly called his name. Kalyan. She confronted him. Did you return to the mansion with Larray again today? It seems the cleaners talked more than expected, didn't they? Kalyan stammered in reply. That's right. Larray gritted her teeth in anger, watching Sereniel walk closer to Kalyan. Sereniel continued. I thought so too. And besides, she abruptly changed the topic. Larray, who is this child? Larray was startled and terrified right after hearing her question.
Sereniel feigned ignorance and asked Kalyan, Kalyan, do you know this kid? He immediately evaded the question, shamelessly denying, No, I don't know this child. His denial made Larray so furious that she clenched her hands, trembling. Sereniel casually continued, Is that so? Benny innocently glanced at Larray. Sereniel showed an understanding expression. I see. Suddenly, Benny spoke up again. He pointed at the person staring wide-eyed at Kalyan and called out, Father! The next second, both Kalyan and Larray looked at Benny in horror. Sereniel looked at him with an unchanged expression. Kalyan hastily explained, well, this child doesn't have a father, so he calls any adult man he meets father. Larray heard his explanation and smirked faintly. Seeing her silence, he continued, I heard Larray is taking care of him because he's a homeless child. At this moment, Sereniel slowly spoke up. I see. Stopping there, she let out a soft chuckle. Then she cheerfully continued, Larray is truly a kind girl, isn't she? She even takes care of a child with nowhere to go, because she understands his pain more than anyone. Hearing Sereniel's words, Larray's face contorted with rage. Speechless, she could only listen as Sereniel continued. That's why she can't leave the boy, right? Oh, by the way, have you found anyone willing to take him in yet? If not, then leave him to me. After all, mining operations are currently suspended, so I have plenty of time to look after him. Larray gritted her teeth and cursed under her breath. How dare you? How dare you speak to me like that?
Seeing Kalyan standing silently behind her, Sereniel grew even angrier. She also wondered, why was he just standing there without saying a word? Was he going to act as if Benny and I didn't exist? Fine. Suddenly, the child squeezed Sereniel's hand. Larray looked up and asked her, What did you just say? Pathetic. Sereniel thought, that's right. She always looks at me with that gaze, but that look is for Benny, only for my child. I will never let him receive such a look, even if I have to sacrifice my life. No sooner said than done, Larray began. There's no need to do that. Kalyan, seeing that the situation was not good, quickly stepped forward to dissuade her. Sereniel, stop here, let's go home. He suddenly remembered there was an urgent matter to deal with at home. As he spoke, Kalyan squeezed Sereniel's hand tightly, making her cry out. Sereniel annoyedly said, Hey, you two, stop it. While they were still struggling, a voice rang out. I never imagined we would have a reunion like this. Hearing this, everyone looked over in surprise. Seeing the newcomer, they all exclaimed in unison, Lord Lexian. All eyes turned towards him. Lexian stepped forward and pushed Kalyan's hand away. He put his arm around her shoulder and said, Excuse me, but I have business with Lady Sereniel Verdelet.
Sereniel was very surprised, wondering to herself, why is Duke Lexian here? How long has he been following us? Seeing this, Kalyan immediately asked, Sir, why do you wish to see my wife? Do you have business with her? Lexian glanced at him and replied, I've just returned from the palace. There was a meeting regarding Sereniel and Verdelet's mines. An investigation into the mine will begin soon, and a thorough inspection will be carried out to ensure that similar accidents never happen again. Noticing Kalyan's and Larry's expressions worsening, he continued, This might take some time, but safety is the top priority. You agree, don't you, Viscount Helkar? He replied in a panic, Yes, of course. Lexian continued, Depending on the results of this investigation, Kalyan Helkar, you may lose your tax reduction privileges if serious safety issues are found at the mine. With that, he turned to Sereniel and added, Therefore, I have come to inform you, miss, that we require a list of all extracted ores in a complete transaction history. It seems you have already prepared everything. She looked at him, full of questions, wondering, Me? Moreover, why has he become so formal?
Kalyan stammered, I will hand it over to you because I manage everything. Not letting Kalyan continue, he raised his hand to stop him. No, you don't need to be involved. Sereniel Verdelet, the main owner of the mine, was also surprised. Then he approached her and suggested, All right, shall we go now? There are a few things I want to hear from the young lady. Kalyan hastily intervened. Wait. Hearing that, Lexian turned back to remind him. Oh, that's right. By the way, I should tell you, this time I will be responsible for the mine.
Upon hearing this, they tore at their hair and cried out, "How? How could this be?" Suddenly, the sound of a baby crying rang out, drawing their attention. Lexion looked at the boy and remarked bluntly, "The boy looks so much like you, sir, just like your son." Then Lexion turned to Serenil and suggested, "Let's go." Behind them, Mrs. Kina chuckled delightedly without stopping. "Heh, oh, I guess this time I really like him now. He truly doesn't seem like a bad person." Later, at the gazebo, Serenil set her teacup down and said, "I apologize for letting you see such an unpleasant sight." Lexion didn't pay much mind, asking in return, "What do you mean? Which part?" They were the ones in the wrong, not her, so there was no need for her to feel ashamed. Even so, I knew there was no way to save him, but it was still interesting to watch. He added, "I didn't expect him to be such a coward." Serenil asked, "As expected, you've been watching from the beginning?" He calmly replied, "I didn't intentionally follow you. Don't worry about it. By the way, are you all right?" Serenil replied, "I'm fine, but seriously, how could they bring an illegitimate child out in broad daylight like that?"
I was so naive, he asked. Was that woman Liray? The girl with the child? Yes, that's right, Lexion remarked. She's just an ordinary woman. But I know exactly what the look in her eyes meant when she stared at Serenil. It's very familiar to me, someone who often wanders the battlefield. That's the intent to destroy an enemy, Serenil calmly replied. Perhaps because of the difference in our statuses, she always felt inferior to me since childhood. I kept telling her we were equals, but now I feel it. Perhaps all those words were nothing but lies. Before that, I deliberately said things that could hurt that child. It's a bit heartbreaking, Lexion consoled. Didn't that woman deceive you first? It was just the truth, so what's wrong with that? Staying silent would only make you look more foolish and unpleasant. Anyway, thanks to their appearance, things have become easier. Rumors will soon spread. Rumors? Serenil repeated, puzzled. Lexion leaned closer and whispered in her ear. Yes, they're so dirty and interesting that they'll attract everyone's attention. Rumors like that. Since we've been given this opportunity, we should take advantage of it. Serenil awkwardly tucked her hair behind her ear, saying nothing. Lexion returned to his seat and asked, "Do you have any plans for next week?" Serenil replied, "Mining operations are on hold, so I'm thinking of spending more time at home with Callian."
Lexion spoke up. "I'm talking about your birthday." Serenil gasped in surprise. He suggested, "This time, let's invite everyone, including that woman. If it's your birthday, then we should hold a grand party, shouldn't we?" His suggestion horrified her. He paid no mind to her reaction and continued, "I will also send invitations to other nobles, including those you know." Serenil said awkwardly, "But I don't have any close noble friends." Lexion reassured her, "That's fine. Even if they're not close, they will certainly want to attend the party." Lexion lowered his gaze and said in a deep voice, "A lavish party will be held for your birthday, and the citizens of the Cadia Empire will vie to attend the celebration." Upon hearing this, Serenil broke out in a cold sweat and asked blankly, "How can that be? Wait, how do you know about this?" As soon as she finished speaking, Lexion, sitting opposite her, quickly asked, "What do you mean?"
Immediately, Serenil spoke softly, her voice slightly flustered. "It's my birthday. I've never told anyone, so no one should know, right?" After hearing this, Lexion just stared silently at the person in front of him. After a moment, he slowly spoke. "Of course, it's because I know many things about you. Your birthday is just one of them." 2 days later, as Duke Lexion had said, a rumor caught everyone's attention and quickly spread throughout the empire. In the room, on the table where a wine bottle sat, a cold snort suddenly echoed. Varys gripped the wine glass in his hand, clenching his teeth. "Callian Helkar, I will never forgive you, you damn fool." The red liquid in the glass spilled onto the pile of papers below. He recalled Serenil's words. "Uncle, I think you must already know about the mine explosion. It seems there's going to be an investigation into safety issues. But don't worry, I assure you this will go smoothly. Besides, based on the documents I obtained from Callian, I've recalculated the previous sales. It seems you also received a portion of the revenue, though I don't know the exact amount. If possible, I'll probably temporarily suspend the payment deadline. I also want to know the exact amount I need to pay. For your reference, I will send all sales documents from the past until now." A moment later, Varys couldn't contain his anger and trembled. "That scoundrel Callian, how dare he deceive me? Why is the quantity different from what he told me?" In the past, Callian had given him a bag of money. "This is your share of the profits."
At this moment, a thought immediately sprang into Varys' mind. He gathered investors and granted them tax reduction rights. At that time, 40% of the profits from mining flowed into his hands. However, if Serenil was right, the amount he received was far from the actual quantity. He didn't fully trust Callian, but why was this happening so suddenly? And what was worse was that the person leading the investigation was Lexion. His stern image quickly appeared in Varys' mind.
Varys suddenly covered his face, sinking into deep thought. Had the royal family already realized this? And more importantly, Kalyan had even caused a shameful scandal. What on earth was he doing? At the mansion covered by the silent night, Kalyan was extremely flustered, constantly biting his nails in extreme bewilderment. He stood outside a room, continuously knocking on the door. "Serenil, please listen to me, please." It wasn't until he heard a voice from inside say, "Come in, Kalyan," that his expression brightened. Immediately, the door was hastily opened. Serenil, sitting on a chair, asked directly, "What do you want?" These words made Kalyan tremble even more. "What do you mean? You must have heard the rumors, right? But why? Why haven't you said anything? And why haven't you come to our shared bedroom lately? Please, give me a chance to explain." After hearing that, Serenil looked a bit confused. "Explain?" Kalyan clasped his hands together imploringly. "I swear, it's all just rumors. You understand me better than anyone, right? I, Kalyan Helkar, belong only to you. Since we were little, my eyes have always been on you alone. You know that, right? I've always been by your side whenever you face difficulties. How could you betray me? I don't know who spread these rumors, but what I really want to say is, can you trust the Kalyan Helkar you know? Please, Serenil." At the same time, Serenil was extremely awkward, not knowing what to do. What now? I'm not even sure anymore if the person he's talking about truly existed. Suddenly, Serenil unexpectedly spoke up. "Kalyan, do you love me?"
Kalyan broke out in a cold sweat at these words. "What?" Meanwhile, Serenia once again questioned, "Do you truly love me with all your heart?" Immediately, Kalyan began to prevaricate. "Of course I do. I've always loved you. From the moment we met until now, my feelings have never changed. I love you, Serenial. I know I'm not worthy enough for you, so I've worked really hard to be able to proudly stand on equal footing with your uncle, but it seems I haven't paid close enough attention. I'm truly sorry. I thought I did everything to make you happy, but in the end, I made you feel." However, Serenial pulled her hand away from his grasp. "I'm sorry. I suddenly feel very tired. If you hadn't lied to me, if you were truly sincere with me right now, even if you only genuinely wanted to apologize, perhaps it could make my heart stir again, and I might forgive you, even if just for a moment. But now it's too late. Forgive me, but I want to rest tonight. Or perhaps all I want to hear are your lies again, to strengthen my resolve. Good night." Regardless of how Kalyan called out from behind, "Serenil, I'm not lying. My feelings for you have never changed. From now on, I will prove it through my actions. The excavation has been postponed, so I can be by your side at all times. The rumors will be quickly suppressed. That's right, your birthday is coming up. Let's have a party at our villa. I'll prepare everything." Before he could finish, Serenil unexpectedly turned her head and sneered. "No need. This time I plan to host my own birthday party." Hearing this, Kalyan showed a startled expression. "What? A party?" But Serenil remained extremely calm. "Didn't you just say that you would prove everything from now on? So please invite the nobles to the party and tell them it's just a meaningless rumor. Therefore, we must also invite Larre, right?" At this, Kalyan's tone became hesitant. "But she's just a commoner. I don't think inviting her to parties like this is a good idea." But Serenil was very confident. "I don't believe she would mind this, so you don't need to worry." Elsewhere, Varys sat at a table, chin in hand, pondering. What should I do if Serenil divorces because of this rumor? Kalyan will be kicked out of the mine, and the mine will belong to Sereniel. If that happens, my plan will... That wretched girl. I should have destroyed her earlier. She's too resilient to be alive. I should have wiped her out, just like I did with her parents. Taking the mine too easily was a mistake from the start. Wait a minute. I don't think this is a bad idea. Once Sereniel divorces and reclaims the mine, I can just take it from her, because now, with no one left to protect her, getting rid of a girl like that would be as easy as pie. Scene change. At a grand mansion, an excited voice rang out. "Madam, you look absolutely stunning. Of all the times you've dressed up, this is the best." Sereniel was adorned with luxurious jewelry, looking magnificent. The other person quickly wondered, but why do the Duke's gifts match so perfectly?
The size was also perfect. Serenil noticed a piece of paper neatly placed on the table. She read the instructions. "I'm the one who prepared it, so remember to wear it. I'm sure it will suit you very well." Serenil was a little intrigued. Sometimes he truly understood her. The maid standing nearby kept wondering, how strange, how did he know the madam's size? Serenil suddenly turned her head and said, "It's time for me to go, or I'll be late for my own birthday party." The lavish banquet hall had begun to bustle. Serenil understood that her birthday party had raised everyone's expectations. The party was held at the mansion of Marquis Burleigh. When Serenil requested the use of the main hall for the party, Marquis Varese fully agreed. Because of these things, her birthday party deserved a splendid celebration.
Even more honorably, Duke Lexion personally oversaw all preparations to ensure the party was more perfect and grand than ever, with the simple instruction, make everything perfect.
It wasn't until the party was in full swing that the protagonist, Sarah Neal, slowly descended into the main hall. "Sarah Neal," a familiar voice called out from behind her. "Uncle." Sarah Neal smiled and turned her head to respond. Varys, leaning on his cane, slowly approached her. "It seems everything is ready, isn't it?" Maintaining her polite smile, Sarah Neal nodded politely. "Yes, I was just about to come down. Thank you for letting me borrow this mansion to host the party." Varys walked over to stand beside his niece, his aged face showing a hint of nostalgia. "What are you talking about? This mansion is where you were born and grew up. So this is your home, too. There's no need to thank me." Despite his reassuring words, Sarah Neal maintained her polite smile.
She expressed herself. "Even so, I'm still very grateful for this. Besides, I don't see him anywhere. Where did he go?" Her immediate question made the smile on Varys's face freeze. He awkwardly explained. "He had some business to attend to back home. It seems work has worn him out too much." Sarah Neal tilted her head, feigning surprise. "Oh, really? But he left without saying a word to me." Not wanting her to dig deeper, Varys quickly changed the subject. "More importantly, I've reviewed the report on the mine that you sent. The report is more detailed than I thought." Hearing him say that, Sarah Neal found it inconvenient to say anything further. "I am very honored that you say so." Seeing her seem to go along with it, Varys rejoiced. "It's far superior to Calien's report. So now, after the investigation is concluded, why don't you manage it yourself as you see fit?" This decision truly astonished Sarah Neal. "Me?" Varys explained in a low voice. "From the very beginning, you were the one who held this mine. And you've heard the rumors, haven't you? Whether they are true or not, caution never hurts." Hearing this, Sarah Neal finally understood. She lowered her eyes, a cold look returning to them. "So does that mean you're preparing for my divorce from Calien? Your intentions are too obvious." Varys's smiling face no longer seemed warm in Sarah Neal's eyes. "If I hand over ownership of the mine to the Marquise's family, that's when he'll want to destroy me, right?" The tragic screams from the past echoed once more, haunting her mind. Sarah Neal said coldly, "Thank you for your concern." She skillfully changed the subject. "I understand what you fear, but today is my birthday. I also have a few things to tell you after today. I believe you will understand soon enough." With that, she lifted the hem of her dress, turned and walked away. "If you have anything else to say, please save it for after the party. We can't keep the guests waiting." Knowing he wouldn't get any results, Varys also stood frozen. "Well then."
Back in the main hall, Sarah Neal quickly adopted a sweet tone. "Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you could all make it today. Thank you for setting aside your busy schedules to be here." Her beautiful face now looked utterly harmless. "Let's all enjoy this party together." Like a gracious lady, Sarah Neal enthusiastically went around greeting everyone. "Marchioness Wellington, thank you for attending." The Marchioness also responded warmly. "The honor is all mine, isn't it? Thank you for the invitation." With a face and aura that few could rival, Sarah Neal instantly became the center of attention. She's stunning, even more than I imagined, but I wonder if she knows about her husband's scandal." That doubtful remark immediately drew in some who loved to argue. Certainly not. She looks so intelligent. Besides, if she knew, who would still be in the mood to host a party?
A haughty young lady slightly curled her lips and mimicked, "It's fine, this doesn't bother me. That's what you want everyone to believe, right? Isn't that so?" Saying this, she curled her lips and sneered at Sarah Neal. How pathetic. Even the person next to her agrees. She should hide away until the rumors die down, shouldn't she, right? And just as they were laughing loudly, Calian also just managed to rush over. Gasping for breath, he advanced towards Sarah Neal. Sarah Neal. His pathetic appearance seemed to confirm everyone's suspicions. Seeing Viscount Calian like that, perhaps the rumors were false. As soon as he finished speaking, Calian, looking subservient, approached. He bowed his head to apologize. "I'm sorry I'm late." But Sarah Neal acted as if she didn't mind. "It's fine, you're still on time." Immediately, cheers erupted. "Oh my, she's so innocent. There really are men like that, you know." And along with that came blunt criticism of Calian, pretending to love his wife while secretly doing something bad behind her back. But it's also possible they're both putting on an act.
The haughty lady from earlier chuckled tremulously, sneering. "Well then, I wonder what will happen next." The young lady beside her was not to be outdone. Misfortune is only amusing when it belongs to someone else. "How is everyone doing tonight?" Sarah Neal's firm voice immediately cut them off. "Are you all enjoying dinner tonight?" The young ladies who had just been laughing and talking instantly reined in their disdain. "Certainly, it's truly a delightful feast. We were just discussing how thrilled we are to have been invited here." And Calian, playing the role of a loving husband, stepped forward and put an arm around Sarah Neal's shoulder. "If any of you need anything, please don't hesitate to let me know. You've all taken the time to come for Sarah Neal, and I wouldn't want any of you to feel uncomfortable." Seeing him step in, the young ladies softened their tone. "Marchioness, you must be very happy. The Viscount is so good to you," Serenelle said with a meaningful tone. "Is that so?" Just then, an appearance caught their attention. "Oh!" In an instant, the crowd's attention shifted to one side. One young lady shrieked, "That person is—" The guests' gazes immediately turned towards the door, where a figure in brilliant red had just appeared.
Lorraine, looking embarrassed, entered the banquet hall with her head bowed. As soon as Callian saw her, his face turned pale as if he had seen a ghost. Cyraniel calmly approached. "Welcome, Lorraine. I'm delighted you could make it. You must have gone through a lot of trouble to get here, didn't you?" Cyraniel maintained her calm tone, but Lorraine was visibly flustered. She replied, "It's all right. I apologize for being late." From a position of advantage, Cyraniel raised her voice. "Really? Don't worry, I'm fine. Some guests haven't arrived yet." Immediately, whispers of judgment arose again, this time directed at Lorraine. How shameful! How dare she show her face here? A commoner! No, perhaps even worse. Doesn't she know her place? Discreetly, Cyraniel leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Don't mind what others say. I'm the one who invited you." But it seemed this whisper was loud enough for the crowd to hear. The gossip intensified. The Marquis is right. She must have known what kind of atmosphere this would create. She's the one who has been cared for by the Burleigh family since she was a child, isn't she? Then she's even less forgivable, both Callian and her. The gossip quickly went too far. Of low birth, she probably feels no shame, does she? Could it be that the Viscount was simply enchanted by that woman?
Lorraine had just lost her composure. She gritted her teeth, rolled her eyes, and cursed under her breath. "Cyraniel, this is your plan, isn't it? You invited me here just to create a scandal, didn't you?" Her bitter words marred Cyraniel's smiling face. "When I sent you the invitation, you laughed in my face, didn't you? Thinking about Callian falling into your hands, I was nothing but a fool." She vehemently exposed her anger. "That's why you could enter so silently, isn't it? No matter how much noise you make, it won't change anything, Cyraniel." And then immediately her eyes darted towards Callian, who was pale and seeking comfort. "In the end, I am still the winner. Callian's betrayal is undeniable." Lorraine's face was now grotesquely contorted. "I am the one who won Callian's heart and bore his child." The lively chatter of the party immediately subsided slightly.
Cyraniel, as the host of the party, maintained her elegant demeanor, smiled at her esteemed guests, and then excused herself for a moment. She slowly turned and ascended the stairs. Once she reached a high position where everyone could see her, she turned around and spoke loudly. "I apologize for interrupting everyone's enjoyment, but there are a few things I wish to share with you all." Cyraniel continued, "First, I want to express my joy that everyone has made the effort to be here today. I am truly grateful for your kindness in attending my hasty invitation. Thanks to all of you, this will be a birthday party I will never forget." As Cyraniel's melodious voice resonated, below, Lorraine still frowned and muttered, "How pathetic," while Callian broke into a sweat from fear. Cyraniel seemed oblivious, and her voice did not falter. "I know you all came to celebrate my birthday party, of course, but I suspect that the rumor spreading throughout the city also played a part. Today, I want to talk about that rumor." When she made her decision, Callian heard it and felt a slight joy in his heart. He knew immediately that it was all her intention. "That's right, Cyraniel, make it clear." He even sighed in relief as if a burden had been lifted, telling everyone that the rumor was false and that there were no issues between the two of them. But contrary to Callian's expression, Varys became tense. Was she going to deny that it was all nonsense? Immediately after, without making everyone wait long, Cyraniel slowly pulled the ring off her ring finger in front of Callian and me. "We are preparing for a divorce, as everyone already knows. The reason is clear." Saying so, she held out the ring and declared loudly, "It's all true. Everything that happened is Viscount Callian's fault." With each word spoken, the faces of those involved in the banquet hall below dramatically changed. Along with the gesture of letting the silver ring fall freely, Cyraniel coldly concluded, "And today, I officially declare the termination of all relations with the Hellcar Viscount family." Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to like and subscribe to support us and not miss the latest episodes. We wish you relaxing and enjoyable moments. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.